Chapter 1705. The distance between Mars and Earth was only 100 million kilometers. With Jiang Tian's current cultivation, he would be able to fly over in less than a day with the Kunpeng's speed. However, it would also consume a lot of his true essence. But with the rising sun, he was able to avoid this trouble. The crystal reactor was running at full speed, shooting out a straight space flame, compressing the space and forming a space curvature. The curvature stabilized and pushed the Dharma artifact forward. Its speed had reached the level of sublight speed, which was comparable to the speed of Jiang Tian's Kunpeng. When 1/3 of the journey was completed, a vast planet with life appeared in front of Jiang Tian. At this time, the mountains on Earth were clearly visible to the naked eye. If you compared it with a globe, you wouldn't believe that the blue planet in front of you was the Earth you knew. It was more than 10 times the size of the original. Other than the increase in the size of the 5 continents, on top of the original ocean, new continents were born. There was a vast expanse of greenery, which made the vegetation look extremely vigorous. Lakes were scattered everywhere and mountains were like dragons. Any one of them was higher than the Andes. Ah, what a cultivation paradise! Jiang Tian let out a long sigh, his eyes filled with deep emotions. In his previous life he had traveled the star ocean and fought in the universe. He had seen countless bright planets, cultivated planets, and even went to the deity realm and the divine realm. However, he still missed Earth the most, because that was where his family was buried. In this life he had lived 2 lives and his parents and family were all on Earth. He had also planted the foundation for Earth and sacrificed a lot of blood and sweat, which made his feelings for Earth even stronger. By then he was already a nascent soul cultivator and had formed the supreme 9-orifice chaotic divine body. He was like the Son of God and had the power of a soul formation cultivator. Even in the central galaxy he could be considered a powerful figure. Homesick. But at this moment his mood was still the same as that of a traveler returning home. When he left, the spirit chi on Earth had just begun to recover. 4 years later, Earth had already become a spirit chi planet. Furthermore, he had experienced the invasion of the Heavenly Shepherd Divine General, the invasion of the Big Dipper Demon Clan, and the descent of the Righteous Alliance. In the past 4 years, the evolution process of a normal star might have been condensed for hundreds or even thousands of years. It was bound to bring about a great impact, fusion, and fission to the civilization on Earth. What a wonderful world! This beautiful world is worth protecting and fighting for our entire lives. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face was slightly moved and she couldn't help but ask. In her eyes, the azure star slowly rotated in the universe like a brilliant sapphire. The spirit chi of this star was surging and the essence chi was like a dragon. Endless Tao laws and precepts rumbled on it, making it seem like the rules were like a piece of metal, and the essence chi was incomparably condensed. There were also dragons of essence chi roaring in the sky of the Earth, thousands of miles away. The spirit chi on Earth was increasing almost all the time. In just 4 years, the spirit chi on Earth was already 3 times that of the ruins of deity, almost catching up with some famous cultivation planets in the central galaxy. Indeed, Jiang Tian had chosen a difficult path, but she thought it was all worth it. The civilization on Earth had entered a new stage. In the next 1,000 or 10,000 years, it would develop rapidly and rise rapidly, eventually standing among the stars in the universe. Is that a transformed moon? No, it's not even worth a moon. When the indestructible ship was 10 million kilometers away from Earth, the big black dog who was squatting on the sofa in the cockpit exclaimed and stared at the Earth in front of him with his mouth wide open. With the naked eye he could already see that there were 3 more satellites around Earth, as if there were 3 moons. That's not the moon. Cheng Lulu, who had fully recovered and changed into a suit of crystal armor, said softly with a complicated expression on her sweet face. It wasn't that she wasn't seriously injured, but that Jiang Tian's healing methods were too powerful. He let her take some pills first and cast a few spells to recover. What's that? The big black dog was confused. The moon has fallen in the 3rd year of the spirit chi recovery. These 4 satellites are the space cities of the Beihan sect, the exiled deity hall, the Feiyang sect and the Wuji sect. Cheng Lulu said coldly with a glint of viciousness in her eyes. In fact, when she first heard from Divine Lord Tai Sha that the disasters on Earth in the past 2 years were all controlled by Han Ming Zongzi, Cheng Lulu felt extremely depressed. She couldn't believe it at all, or rather she didn't want to believe it. That was because Han Ming Zongzi had hidden himself too well. He showed up as a savior and killed the nascent soul cultivators of the monster race, who made Earth tremble like a fiend god. When the Alliance of Justice and Order and the Earth's mythological alliance held a ceremony to jointly conquer the demon clan, Qing Lulu had seen him from afar during the ceremony. Han Ming Zongzi had black hair, black clothes and black eyes. His skin was shiny and there was an air of nobility around him. He was surrounded by many big shots like a moon surrounded by stars. As soon as he appeared, the light of the younger generation, and even the light of all the cultivators on Earth, seemed to be overshadowed by this person's light. Reclusive royalty immediately paled in comparison to the handsome young man like Ying Su. He was like a grain of rice that couldn't compete with the sun and the moon. It was like a mortal facing a heavenly god. In fact, she wasn't imagining things. As the descendant of the first emperor, Ying Su did have the aura of an emperor, but after all he was only an emperor in the mortal world. How could he compare with the Zongzi of the divine clan who controlled a planet? There were more than 1,000 mortal kingdoms under Han Ming's command that were loyal to the Beihan sect. When those emperors of the mortal world saw him, they would all prostrate themselves in worship, just like how believers would prostrate themselves in front of a living being. It wasn't an exaggeration at all. That was the difference between mortals and immortals. That was the difference between humans and gods. In Qing Lulu's mind, Han Ming was a great hero who could be compared with Zhou Xian. But she never expected that Han Ming, whom she worshipped as her idol and was regarded as the savior of the human race on Earth, turned out to be an ambitious schemer. He turned out to be the culprit who controlled the interstellar war and caused the deaths and injuries of millions of mortal cultivators on Earth. Looks like I can only have Tai Chu as my idol in the future. The others are all rotten flowers. Qing Lulu reminded herself. This space city is so scary. The Blackie was shocked and its eyes widened. The spirit chi on Earth had recovered and the laws were strong. It was easy to understand why it could capture the moon into the gravitational field. However, the size of this space city was too terrifying. According to the calculation of the unsetting sun, its diameter should be 10,000 miles, which was much bigger than the original moon. I'm afraid that the Beihan sect's artifact-making skills are much better than those of the ruins of deity. Zhao Xueqing's pretty face revealed a hint of worry. Yes. Zhang Tian looked calm and didn't seem surprised at all. He said with a half-smile, but Han Ming Zongzi is a master of disguise. He is so pretentious. Yes. Zhao Xueqing said coldly, I admire the noble. I respect the ordinary. I understand cowardice. I can even understand aggression. But I can't accept hypocrisy. He is obviously despicable, shameless, but he is wearing a noble appearance. He treats the Earth civilization as monkeys and caterpillars to play with. Looking at the humans on Earth who were slaughtered and harmed by him, they treat him as a guest, believe in him as a Buddha, and respect him as a sacred being. He must be laughing proudly. Han Ming Zongzi and the others certainly had the ability to occupy Earth. After all, there was not a single soul formation cultivator on Earth today. With their strength, if they wanted to forcibly occupy Earth, it would be as easy as snapping their fingers. However, he didn't. After cleaning up the demon race on Earth, he pretended to lead his people out and built a space city outside Earth to show his friendliness and selflessness. But in fact, on Earth, he had already established his orthodoxy and the top cultivators would become his spokespeople. Chapter 1706. That's true. Qing Lulu was prejudiced by first impressions. She didn't understand the operation of the Big Dipper cultivators, but after Zhang Tian's reminder, she had completely seen through the layout of Han Ming Zongzi and the others. In the beginning, some powerful orthodoxies rose on Earth, such as the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God Temple and the Desolation Temple. They were all comparable to Tianqing School. The cultivators here are all human cultivators from Earth. However, their arcane effort paths are very similar to the Boundless Sect, the Heavenly Snow Hall, the Wasteland Sect and so on from the Big Dipper. And behind them all stands Godson Han Ming. When I left Earth, the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God's Palace, the Desolation Worship Temple. These newly rising Earth cultivation orthodoxies proposed to hold a grand competition with the Tianqing sect and other orthodoxies every year. Through this competition, the right to speak in the Myth Alliance would be decided. Competition? I'm afraid they want to kill. Zhang Tian's face was slightly cold. His eyes narrowed and flashed with a cold light. He sneered, If the Big Dipper cultivators directly went to fight, it would immediately cause xenophobia. But it's completely different if they use puppets as agents. Everyone will think it's an internal struggle on Earth. If these new orthodoxies on Earth beat the Tianqing school, many mortals who don't know the truth will also support them. After all, in their eyes they are all cultivators on Earth. It's the same who's in charge. The puppets will immediately take control of the Myth Alliance. At that time, the so-called Myth Alliance will forget their oath, the purpose and rules of the establishment, and completely become a dog of the Big Dipper starfield. This Han Mingzongzi is really scheming and shrewd. Thinking about it, Qing Lulu suddenly felt a chill in her heart and shivered. It's useless. I'll break it with one punch. Jiang Tian smiled disdainfully. Senior, you're so domineering. Qing Lulu stuck out her tongue and looked at Jiang Tian with admiration. When Jiang Tian's unsetting sun was about to enter the gravitational field of Earth, visually, the 4 space cities appeared even more vast, as if they were artificial stars. Not to mention a person, even if the rising sun city, which was hundreds of miles long, approached, it would be like a grain of rice falling on Mount Tai, not conspicuous at all. Not to mention a person. This is the space city of the Big Dipper system. The huge patterns on the space city were like rivers, filling her vision. Qing Lulu felt as small as an ant. She was nervous and suffocating, as if her phobia of gigantism had broken out. At this time, Qing Lulu also noticed that in addition to the space city, there were many large and small space fortresses floating under the night sky. They were densely packed like the sand of the Ganges River. The space fortresses released powerful mana waves, like a giant net, enveloping the entire Earth. At this moment, a magnificent crystal warship broke away from a space fortress that was 1,000 square kilometers in size and dashed over to intercept them as fast as lightning. Stop. Qi Lian, an inner disciple of the Beihan clan, was here. This realm is under the protection of the Wintry North sect in the Mizar star zone. No one is allowed to enter without permission. Otherwise you will be killed without mercy. Powerful divine sense waves came from the crystal warship. It was a nascent soul cultivator. He spoke the language of Earth 3 times and repeated it again in the language of the Big Dipper. Senior, please allow me to report. I am Qing Lulu, a cultivator from Earth, a member of the Myth Alliance and a warrior of the Guardians of Wuxia. I was captured by the demon race, but luckily escaped and returned with a ship. This is the relevant emblem. Please don't worry. Qing Lulu stepped out of the void. She first cupped her hands in front of her chest and then took out the relevant emblem to display. Enter the space fortress and accept the inspection. Qi Lian, the nascent soul cultivator, said with a serious expression. In addition, everyone who passes the test will have to pay 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones as the clearance fee. Clearance fee? Zhao Xian was surprised. Sect Master Mistress. Qing Lulu's expression didn't change. She quickly said with her divine sense, this is a kind of crystal currency that became popular after you left. It is a hard currency and has a strong purchasing power. 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones are enough to buy the area of a county. It is true that the human cultivators of the Big Dipper fight for Earth. But they don't fight for nothing. Every time they carry out an operation they have to take a lot of crystals from Earth as a reward. The Myth Alliance and the governments of various countries can't do anything about it. They even show an understanding attitude. After all, before the troops and horses move, the food comes first. Space battles do require a lot of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Pills, warships, magical artifacts, and so on. It is said that in just 1 year, half of the crystals on Earth have fallen into the hands of the Big Dipper cultivators. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. His eyes flashed again and he said coldly, provoking a war and making money from it. This Han Mingzongzi is indeed a good person. With these crystals, it is too easy for the puppet forces of Earth to expand their territory. What a rebellion. Do they really think that Earth is their own backyard? They want to pluck the feathers of the goose that crosses the road? Zhao Xian's face turned cold. She was about to kill someone. Forget it. Jiang Tian patted her little hand, telling her not to act rashly. Zhao Xian had to suppress her anger and nodded. These cultivators who blocked the way were annoying and Han Mingzongzi had to be killed. In order to fight foreign aggression, one must first settle the internal affairs. Jiang Tian had to return to Earth to deal with the Tianqing school and gather the scattered forces. Otherwise, once the war started, they would be unable to attend to one thing and lose sight of the other. They would be held back repeatedly and would have to hold back from taking action. At this time, there was another violent fluctuation of space. A crystal warship with the symbol of the Northern Frost sect arrived quickly. It's Han Che's warship. Let's welcome him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several nascent soul cultivators immediately walked out of the intercepting warships. The leading cultivator in yellow looked respectful and panicked. He used the essence Qi to form a voice in the vacuum and said loudly, I am Qi Lian, an inner sect disciple of the Northern Frost sect. I lead the guards to greet Han Che. This is my friend. Let her through. Han Xianxi's attitude was very arrogant, and his cold voice was heard. Stop blabbering, do you want to die? Yes. Let her through. Qi Lian's face turned pale. Although the temperature in the vacuum of space was extremely low, as if he was in an ice cellar, he still broke out in cold sweat. Whoosh. With Qi Lian's order, all the restrictions were activated and a passage was formed. Thank you, Han Che. Qing Lulu cupped her fists. You're welcome. Have a safe trip, everyone. I'll be going to Earth soon. See you again if fate allows. Although Han Xianxi pretended to be calm, he was actually terrified to the extreme. She's Kong Teichu's disciple, but she's bowing to me. He's so scary. Under Han Che's complicated gaze, Qing Tian entered the never-setting sun. Then the warship passed through the restriction passage, crossed the atmosphere and landed on Earth. My immortal will and Dharma power seemed to be shrinking and weakening. After entering the essence Qi layer of Earth, Zhao Xueqing's face suddenly changed and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 1707. I feel like I'm losing my power. Qing Lulu exclaimed. Her face turned pale and she panicked. She had been held captive for a year and she didn't feel this way on Earth. Therefore it was very strange and unexpected. Yes, I feel the same. The big black dog also looked frightened and cried out. It seems that the gravity field around me is also increasing, and the air pressure is also increasing. It's like a huge rock is pressing down on me, making me unable to release my terrible power. It makes me, who can shock the world and make ghosts and gods cry, become ordinary and ordinary. Lulu, your feeling of losing power is wrong. It's just that you can't use your magical power and the range is reduced. And Qinger and the big black dog feel closer to the truth. Jiang Tian's eyes were deep, containing the wisdom of 10,000 years of cultivation in his previous life. But it's not the truth. This is the strengthening of the law. Finally, he showed a touch of joy and said with emotion. In short, as the spirit Qi on Earth recovers for more and more time, its law has become stronger. It seems that the defense of Earth has become stronger. In fact, when we entered the ruins of immortality, we also had this feeling, but it was not so obvious. I also feel that the range of my divine sense, magical power is only 1/10 of the original or even lower. At this time, the rising sun had turned off the crystal reactor. Without accelerating, it landed on Earth by its own weight. But the gravity was too strong and the falling speed was too fast, like a meteor hitting Earth. Zhao Xueqing quickly turned on the crystal reactor and adjusted the reverse speed to slow down the falling speed. However, everyone still felt as if there was a huge boulder weighing 1,000 kilograms pressing down on them with every move they made. Don't panic. Jiang Tian used to be able to summon the primordial qi within 1,000 miles, but at this time he could only mobilize the primordial qi within 100 miles, and it was still decreasing to dozens of miles. But this doesn't mean that our power has weakened. Our power hasn't changed at all. It's just that the power of heaven and earth has become stronger, and the primordial qi law has become stronger. As long as we are in this world, we will be suppressed by this law. There is no exception. The place where we landed should be the original Bohai Bay. Jiang Tian scanned the terrain of the mountains and rivers below and came to a conclusion. At this time, the land of Wuxia was already 10 times or even dozens of times larger than before. The Taihang Mountains, the Debi Mountains, the Yan Mountains, all of them had towering peaks just like the original Himalayas. In fact, they were even taller and more majestic. Moreover, there used to be a vast plain between the Taihang Mountains and the Debi Mountains. But now there were a few mountains that were as huge as dragons. After the recovery of spirit qi, the mountains and topography of Earth had undergone earth-shaking changes. 30,000 meters, 50,000 meters, 30,000 meters. the rising sun was getting closer and closer to the ground. This was a sea. The rising sun ship ejected a long space flame and slowly stabilized its landing. After that, Zhou Xian led everyone out of the cabin. Using the art of all creation, they shrank and put away the ship. Stepping on a flying sword, they rushed towards the continent, leaving a long white trail on the water surface. Roar. A weird-shaped fish at least 100 meters long with dense scales like a real dragon. Its huge fins were like layers of rolling clouds. It suddenly roared, opened its huge mouth like the abyss of hell, and bit towards Zhou Xian and the others. What a big fish, so scary. But it's delicious. Bang. The big black dog laughed strangely and jumped out. It shook its body and turned into a purple gold dragon. It opened its bloody mouth and directly swallowed the strange fish. However, Zhou Xian's face was slightly awe-inspiring. A mere demonic beast actually had the strength of a gold core. If it was in the ruins of immortality, its attack would be enough to set off monstrous waves within 100 miles. However, after the recovery of spirit qi on Earth, it only caused a fluctuation within a range of 10 miles. This was still the reason why the Great Tao laws were strengthened, because of the recovery of spirit qi on Earth. At this time, Zhou Xian's heart was heavy. Before the recovery of spirit qi, gold core cultivators were invincible existences in the world. At that time on Earth, only Yu Wendan of the Preqin dynasty and the 9 elders of Hongmeng had reached the gold core realm. But now, a fish monster and a tiger both had the strength of a gold core realm cultivator. He didn't know if humans could face such a challenge. Let's go back to the Wuxia Guardians Alliance first. I have to send Lulu back. Zhou Xian's expression was complicated. Finally, he made a decision. In fact, the Real Foundation of Tianqing School was Sidoni. His grandfather, parents, sister Ziwei Huang Linger's many comrades and disciples were all there. However, Zhou Xian always remembered that he was a descendant of Yan Huang. He was more concerned about the situation of Wuxia's cultivation world. He didn't know if the Wuxia Guardians Alliance was running smoothly and if it still maintained its independence. After flying for a while, they finally arrived in Wuxia. What a sight! The mountains were majestic. Ancient trees covered the sky and the sun. Old vines covered the earth. Clouds and mist lingered between the mountain peaks. A black goshawk with a wingspan of 100 meters. Its feathers flickered with cold light, and its claws were like peerless heavenly hooks. It was majestic and awe-inspiring. It swooped into the forest. When it rose again, a giant python about 100 meters long was struggling between its claws. The mountains were either lofty and steep, imposing, or protruding and towering. Silver waterfalls fell from the mountain peaks like waterfalls. It was a vast expanse of white and incomparably magnificent. Between the cliffs, all kinds of spirit herbs and orchids climbed and swayed. Longevity apes climbed the holy mountain. Cranes soared among the white clouds. Colorful deers leaped with lingzi in their mouths. There were also many rare birds and strange beasts that couldn't be named. Cheilants, giant apes, and other rare demon beasts could be seen everywhere at this time. This was a vast, mysterious and primitive scene. Everyone seemed to have stepped into a wild world. As they went deeper into the hinterland, they could gradually see cities and towns. Some cities and towns had already been cruelly destroyed in the demon race's invasion. Between the dilapidated walls, there were few traces of people. Weeds grew everywhere. It was incomparably desolate. Wild beasts roamed and wreaked havoc. Those wild dogs' eyes flickered with green light. They were extraordinarily ferocious and were even taller than calves. But even more majestic cities rose from the ground. The high-rise buildings were incomparably thick and heavy. They were easily 1,000 meters tall. Runes flickered and suffused with resplendent light. The mana fluctuations were intense, like celestial palaces. Moreover, there were troops stationed there. They pulled out long lines of defense, and all kinds of fortresses were everywhere. And Zhou Xian had already noticed that those ordinary soldiers were often at least at the body refinement and qi refinement stage. Their bodies were robust and their auras surged. They could leap as if they were flying, and their strength was as great as a mountain. There were also many high-level cultivators who rode on swords and flew through the air, patrolling everywhere. They had actually reached the foundation establishment stage. This city, if I remember correctly, should be called Cape City. It was originally only a small city, but there are at least 100 foundation establishment cultivators overseeing it. Wuxia, it's safe. Zhang Tian nodded slightly, his heart greatly at ease. He had seen it more than once. In one city after another, there were people who couldn't wait for the bus. They jumped up like scallions on dry land and jumped onto the double-decker buses that were a few meters high. In some parks, old men wearing silk training clothes practiced Tai Chi. Sometimes they were like old apes circling trees. Sometimes they were like red-crowned cranes dancing in the sky. Their movements were round and natural, and they had actually reached the Qi refinement stage. In some dojos, children of 5 or 6 years old all had a strict bearing. Their small faces were solemn as they followed their masters to practice sword dao and martial arts. They were the basic cultivation methods that Tianqing School had previously announced. Although demon beasts appeared in the wilderness, and they were very ferocious and powerful. But they were all blocked outside the city. In the city, people lived leisurely and orderly lives. Moreover, with the growth of spirit qi, the number of people who cultivated increased greatly. Almost all schools opened cultivation courses, and some private dojos were even more popular. In the invasion of the demon race, all the countries in the world suffered heavy losses. Only Wuxia had a solid foundation, sufficient preparations, and abundant cultivators. Apart from the cultivation world, there weren't many casualties among mortals. Now it's also the fastest to recover. Government orders are smooth, the world is peaceful, and the people live and work in peace. Qing Lulu said with deep emotion. How difficult it is to prosper a country. Zhang Tian said proudly. In modern times, Wuxia was once poor and weak. Its technology and system were backward. In the face of the invasion of the global powers, our ancestors shed blood and sweat. In the end, we obtained national liberation and comprehensive economic and social development. After these hardships, the people of Wuxia have the ability and courage to deal with great changes. Moreover, the system is superior and the leadership is good, so we can concentrate on doing big things. This is the first major change since ancient times. We overtook the curve and caught up with them. In order to avoid attracting attention, Zhang Tian cast an invisibility spell and went straight into Wuxia. He rushed to the headquarters of the Wuxia Defenders Alliance in the suburbs of Beijing. Chapter 1708. In the end, when the curtain of night fell, Zhang Tian arrived near the Wuxia Defender Alliance's encampment. He and Zhao Xueqing used the art of creation and changed their appearances slightly. They landed on the street while Qing Lulu put on her sunglasses. The sunglasses were also a small artifact that could block the detection of divine senses. This Wild Goose Lake Club actually changed into a cultivation-themed bar? Qing Lulu scanned the surroundings, and her sweet face revealed a strange expression. She had only left for a year, but she also discovered that this place had undergone earth-shattering changes. The original restaurants and shops had all been changed into spirit pills and magic tool trading places, as well as various cultivation-related clubs, bars, and training halls. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. On the bustling street, shop doors were opened and someone used a loudspeaker to shout, "Child, if you want to cultivate, quickly come to Qingqing's tutoring class. We have professional foundation establishment teachers, and the subjects cover alchemy, artificing, and sword dao." According to past data, after the tutoring class training, the enrollment rate of freshmen increases by 80%, and there is a chance to directly enter the boundless training hall. Taoist Floating Cloud talks about how to successfully reach foundation establishment under harsh conditions. Today, the Desolation Temple is giving a lecture on the Watch Me broadcast channel. You only need to pay 5,000 crystals to obtain the personal guidance of a master for one-on-one teaching. At the same time, a different voice was heard. What's so great about cultivating? Martial Dao is the strongest in the world. No matter how many changes you make and how many spells you use, I will break them with a single punch. The Longwei Martial Arts Club opens its doors to poor students without cultivation aptitude. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. That's how domineering it is. These two training institutions seem to adhere to different philosophies, and they were on opposite sides of the same street. All kinds of shouting across the air made the passers-by stare blankly. All kinds of details, many vivid scenes, and a thick aura of cultivation civilization hit the face. At this time, everyone passed by a restaurant. A waiter wearing an apron said with a smile, "Dear guests, even if you haven't cultivated to Anidia, you still have to eat. Tonight, our head chef is introducing 8 treasures: rare tiger meat and steamed 1,000-year-old Chinese turtle essence meat. Welcome to come in and taste. Chinese turtle essence? Originally, when the big black dog heard that there was demonic beast delicacies to eat, his mouth was drooling. But all of a sudden he was attracted by a small advertisement on a telephone pole that offered a high price for a child. This advertisement has already been notarized by the city's Cultivation Association. It has legal effect. Madame Wang, 28 years old, 1.72 meters tall, voluptuous and charming, warm and cheerful personality, good at dual cultivation. My husband is an Oris Core stage grandmaster. Because of chi deviation he lost the ability to reproduce. In order to inherit the huge family business after discussion, I'm looking for a healthy man to conceive and fulfill my mother's dream. If I'm satisfied with the call, I'll send you a deposit of 200,000 middle-grade spirit stones as soon as possible. If you're pregnant, I'll give you another 800,000 middle-grade spirit stones as a reward. Phone number, XXXX. There was a beautiful woman printed on the advertisement, and the large black dog was dazed upon seeing this. Scammers nowadays are really keeping up with the times. Will Qin Shi Huang revive and give me money? Below the advertisement for a child, there was an advertisement for a son-in-law. The capital's wealthy Qing family is looking for a son-in-law. The man is 25 to 35 years old, 1.8 meters tall and above, unmarried, and his cultivation level must not be lower than the early stage of foundation establishment. He's good at alchemy, a disciple of a famous sect, and has participated in the Earth Defense War. If both parties are suitable, the woman's family will immediately send 80,000 middle-grade spirit stones and a middle-grade spirit treasure as dowry, and provide the man with 300 ordinary caves with complete facilities. It's changed. It's changed too much. It's completely different from when I left 2 years ago. It's changing with each passing day. Zhou Xian's beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent moon shape, and she sighed with emotion. It's full of vitality and it's advancing at a rapid pace. Jiang Tian, however, felt very gratified. He had gone through a lot of hardships, went deep into various dimensions and looked for the seeds of revival. He stood his ground against the opinions of the masses and swept away many opposing forces. Finally, he had planted the eternal Tao foundation for Earth and revived the spiritual aura. What he wanted to see was the current golden age of cultivation. What he wanted was for everyone to be able to cultivate, reach a new level of life, and give birth to a powerful cultivation civilization. Senior, let's go to the Guiyan Lake Bar. It's a place where the members of the League of Guardians often go in and out. We should be able to get a feel of the current situation easily. Finally, after walking around, Qing Lulu suggested. Jiang Tian nodded slightly, and there was nothing wrong with that. The group of people entered the Guiyan Lake Bar with the big black dog. Our shop has recently launched a new version of Green Flame Vodka, which is most suitable for foundation establishment cultivators. Mortals will immediately be burned to death after drinking it, and chi refinement cultivators will have gastric perforation after drinking it. There's also a big demon steak. Would you like to try it, sir and miss? The bartender immediately came up to them and said with a smile on his face. Jiang Tian ordered some food and drinks, and while eating he glanced around. There were many cultivators gathered here, and a few of them even wore the emblem of the Wuxia League of Guardians. However, whether it was Jiang Tian, his wife, or Qing Lulu, they felt very unfamiliar and did not know who they were. The new generation was replacing the old, and it was said that the Wuxia League of Guardians already had tens of thousands of people, and the area of their base had expanded by 10 times. On an empty space in the bar, there was a holographic projection TV that was playing a talk show, Approaching Cultivation. 10 days ago, a three-eyed violent ape that weighed more than 10 tons appeared in the Hengduan Mountains. It was said to be a primordial species. In just 10 days, this three-eyed violent ape had already killed more than 230 cultivators, including 3 false core cultivators. It was said that even the Southwest Army's small Kualian controllable nuclear fusion weapons could not kill it. However, at 3 o'clock in the morning today, this heinous three-eyed violent ape was successfully killed by the Kunlun sect's Zhongzi, Ji Mingchuan. Now let's contact the Kunlun sect's Zhongzi Golden Core cultivator, Ji Mingchuan, who is still slaying demons in the Hengduan Mountains, and let him talk about the situation at that time. the host said excitedly. Zhang Tian felt that the name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was. He is the son of the Kunlun sect's former sect master, Zhou Xian. Qing Lulu explained hurriedly, her beautiful eyes filled with disbelief. However, during the battle between Senior and the famous preaching sects, at the beginning of the counterattack, Yi Karen used the basic sword technique that Senior had announced and defeated Zhou Xian with one strike, destroying his Dantian and Cultivation to avenge Yi Zhantian. In the past few years after the recovery of Spirit Qi, Senior Li Wuji, who had ascended to the Golden Core level, regained control of Kunlun and cooperated with the Tianqing school and the Mythological Alliance to suppress the cultivation world of Wuxia. Zhou Xian and his son were expelled from Kunlun, and they took Yi Yuhui and other Kunlun outcasts to live in seclusion. Why are they back now? So it's him. Zhang Tian took a sip of the green flame vodka and finally had an impression of it. It all started when Zhang Tian entered the West Earth dimension. Zhou Xian of the Kunlun sect wanted to compete with Zhang Tian for control of the Wuxia Guardians Alliance. During a martial arts competition, he suddenly used a killer move and severely injured Yi Zhantian, becoming the real controller of the Wuxia Guardians Alliance. Later, when the famous preaching sects rose, the ambitious Zhou Xian chose to cooperate with them to stop Zhang Tian from recovering Spirit Qi and compete for the position of Mythological Alliance's leader. At that time it was impossible for Li Wuji to control him. In the end it was Yi Karen who severely injured Zhou Xian and destroyed his Dantian, but he didn't kill him. Instead he let him leave with Ji Mingchuan, Yi Yuhui and the others. After all, he was Yi Karen's teacher, and Yi Karen also cared about their old friendship. He remembered that Ji Mingchuan was just a foundation establishment cultivator at that time, but 4 years later he had also reached the Golden Core level. It's the duty of a cultivator to slay demons and protect mortals. As the son of a famous sect, this is what I should do. There's nothing to say. On the holographic light screen, a handsome young man in a Taoist robe with an unruly face appeared. He snorted proudly and said, "Don't worry." He sneered and said, "However, I need to make one thing clear. The demon beasts are wreaking havoc, the demon race is causing chaos, and the human race has suffered heavy losses. Kong Teichu has an unshirkable responsibility. As the saying goes, those who are not of our kind are bound to have different intentions. The demon race is cruel, but Kong Teichu took in the moon-worshipping wolf clan, the sea clan and other demon races as his subordinates and formed the Mythological Alliance. This is called nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity. The human race on Earth relaxed their vigilance and gave the demon race an opportunity to take advantage of. Now everyone has seen how many cultivators died when the Big Dipper demon race invaded. How many cities were destroyed in a day? How many people lost their homes and families? These dead cultivators and mortals, this blood feud, half of it should be blamed on the Big Dipper demon race and the other half should be blamed on Kong Teichu. Kong Teichu is the sinner of Earth. Hearing this, Zhang Tian's eyes turned cold but his face was calm. He took a sip of the green flame vodka without batting an eyelid. This kid, how dare he slander me like this and distort the truth? He's too hateful. Qing Lulu was so angry that her face turned pale and her eyes were about to spit fire. Chapter 1709. Wow, Yi Mingchuan is back. Our Chuan is handsome, has a high cultivation level and is from a famous sect. He's perfect. His cultivation level has skyrocketed since he came out of seclusion. He must have killed more than 20 golden core beasts. This record is enough to show disdain for the world. Even Kong Teichu wasn't so powerful back then. In the bar, a few female cultivators immediately cheered and discussed, as if they were fans facing their idol. In fact, the cultivators on Earth were like celebrities in the past. They would practice spells and kill demons on live broadcast, capturing countless fans and being followed by billions of people. What's so great about a golden core cultivator? I've eaten at least 800 golden core cultivators, if not 1,000. I'll swallow his golden core in one gulp. The big black dog ordered a plate of cold Chinese turtle essence and ate heartily. His face was even darker with anger. Of course. Now the Kunlun sect and the Boundless Dojo are working together to cultivate cultivators on Earth. And Ji Mingchuan has received personal guidance from the dojo master of the Boundless Dojo. Those are cultivators from other planets. Yeah, cultivators from other planets are really amazing. Any one of them is at least a golden core cultivator, and there are countless nascent soul cultivators. How can the men on Earth compare to them? Especially when the boundless dojo and cultivators from other planets were mentioned, the female cultivators in the bar were even more excited. Are cultivators from other planets so good? Qing Lulu looked gloomy. That's not strange. Zhang Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly and sigh. In 2018, in his previous life, even billionaires were like this. They looked up to foreigners psychologically, and their national pride hadn't been established yet. Especially in the upper-class society, they urgently needed to be recognized by the West. Those who were into music spent money to perform in Vienna's Golden Hall. Those who were involved in commercials had to find a few foreigners to appear in the screen. This was taught by professors as if with the help of Westerners things were real money. After studying hard for more than 10 years, they might not even be able to show their foreign passport during the college entrance examination. Universities even asked students to clean the dormitories for foreign students. At that time, even a white loser could do well in Wuxia, not to mention the richer nobles from other countries. Even a lazy black man could wantonly harvest a lot of easy girls in Wuxia, and his mother-in-law was proud of it. Before a true sense of national pride was established, it was inevitable that they would worship foreigners. Moreover, they were now facing powerful alien cultivators. I'm afraid that this person isn't unaware of the Big Dipper Demon clan's arrival. Instead, he's opportunistic and has chosen to side with the Big Dipper Demon clan for the sake of profit. Staring at Ji Mingchuan on the screen, Zhou Xueqing's beautiful eyes emitted traces of coldness as she mocked. Don't be agitated. Zhang Tian smiled and patted Zhou Xueqing's hand as if he didn't hear Ji Mingchuan's provocation. However, Kang Teichu is, after all, the pioneer of the revival of spirit qi. He has also announced more than 30 sets of basic cultivation techniques and planted the foundation of Earth for all eternity. These achievements can't be erased, right? The host asked with a smile. The revival of spirit qi was only to save the life of his pregnant wife. Do you think Kang Teichu is so kind and selfless? At that time, 9 dragons of spirit qi came from all over the world, from the famous mountains and rivers of Wuxia straight to Sidoni's Tianqing school. Didn't you see it? Ji Mingchuan's words were sharp and harsh as he said mercilessly. Who is the biggest beneficiary of the revival of spirit qi? Kang Teichu's family, the Tianqing school. He drew 90% of the spirit qi on Earth to the Tianqing school and gave it to his wife and children. If the spirit qi hadn't been drawn away, the famous mountains and rivers of Wuxia, such as Kunlun and Wudong, would have been refined to the limit and flourished. They would have the strength to fight against the demon race and wouldn't have suffered so many losses. As for the cultivation techniques you mentioned, you also said that they are basic cultivation techniques. Ji Mingchuan said with disdain. Why would Kang Teichu show the real secret cultivation techniques to others? Kang Teichu's cultivation techniques are nothing compared to those of the Wuxia sect and the Beihan sect. They are the worst of the worst. Let me tell you this once. I tried to practice the basic sword technique of the Tianqing school, but my progress was very slow. After a year of practice, I still couldn't make a breakthrough. However, I practiced the Beihan sect sword technique and reached the golden core level within a year. I could kill 10 miles with one strike. Shameless. Qing Lulu was so angry that her body trembled. Her face turned pale and she clenched her fists. Crack. The wine glass made of jade shattered into pieces. This kid is so good at changing the subject. Blackie gritted his teeth and said. That's right. Back then, Zhang Tian had led most of the spirit qi to the Tianqing school, which led to the appearance of the 9 dragons and the appearance of the phoenix, which shocked the world. But Zhou Xueqing and Zhang Tian had sacrificed a lot to protect Earth over the years. How many difficult battles had they been through? Zhang Tian went straight into the star ocean, crossed galaxies and traveled 4 light-years to reach the 2 stars south gate, and opened up the battlefield in the ruins of deity. Zhang Tian had gone through more than 4 years of arduous battles. The civilization only has 30 years to live. If there are really more than 100 soul formation cultivators, I'm afraid Kang Teichu and his wife won't be able to support them. The host nodded worriedly and showed some pity. Qing Lulu noticed that the cultivators in the bar didn't react at all, as if Zhang Tian's death had nothing to do with them. She couldn't help but feel sad and sighed. The world doesn't know Kang Teichu. Humans are so forgetful. The leader of the Myth Alliance, Jeffrey, will start the last round of negotiations with the Tianqing school in 3 days. The Snow God Temple spent 10 billion superior-grade crystals to buy the shares of Watch Me. But the chairman Zhang Yilin refused. Watch Me shone after the recovery of Spirit Qi, and the number of registered users kept increasing. It has broadcast tens of thousands of battles to protect Earth and has become the world's top media group. After hearing the news, Jiang Tian thought for a while and said in a low voice, we're going to split up now. I'll get the Dharma artifact left by the Scorpio Divine Lord and make it public to the world. Then I'll suppress the puppet dojos of the Beihan sect and kill Zhou Xian and the others. You, go to the Tianqing school immediately. I'm worried that the negotiation with Jeffrey is fake and the battle is real. You have to go and take charge. We have to settle our internal problems before we fight foreign aggression. If we don't get rid of these lackeys of the Alliance of Justice and Order in advance, they will cause trouble behind our backs when we fight with Han Ming and the others. We have to be careful. Okay. In fact, Xiao Xueqing really wanted Jiang Tian to go back to the main dojo of the Sidoni Tianqing school with her and gather with her daughter and parents. However, she knew that Jiang Tian cared about the world. Since he had made a decision as his good wife, she had to support him and not drag him down. Careful. Our daughter and I are waiting for you to come home. At the door of the bar, Xiao Xueqing tucked Jiang Tian's collar. Her clear and beautiful eyes were full of affection as she said goodbye to Jiang Tian. I'm not afraid of Han Ming, Zhongzi and the others. Not to mention their puppets and henchmen. It's just that this kid is too vicious and has deceived many cultivators on Earth. Therefore I have to announce the truth and kill them one by one after some screening. Jiang Tian said lightly. Yes, hubby, I believe in you. You are the most powerful man under the starry sky. Xiao Xueqing's clone looked up at Jiang Tian with an expression of reverence and adoration. She smiled sweetly with extreme satisfaction, but she sighed with melancholy in her heart. She didn't know why, but after returning from the ruins of immortality, he seemed to have some estrangement and distance with her. Along the way he rarely touched her, let alone made love. Originally she wanted to give birth to another child for him. Hubby, I'm leaving first. Putting away her thoughts, Xiao Xueqing stepped into the air and made an invisibility spell. She stepped on a flying sword and flew in the direction of the Tianqing school at lightning speed. At this moment she was eager to return home. Coincidentally, Divine Lord Scorpio sealed the Dharma artifact of the image imprint in the secret realm of the Yin sect, Lanyi Academy. Watching Qing'er disappear into the horizon, Jiang Tian murmured with a faint smile, "That's right. I wonder how much Du Guxiao, who was half a step away from the immortal state 10 years ago, has improved his cultivation. That guy is quite talented. Plus, with the recovery of Spirit Qi, he must have stepped into the foundation establishment or even the core formation level." Chapter 1711. Du Guxiao, a disciple of the Yin sect in the Hengduan Mountains, was the first disciple of the Yin sect that Jiang Tian had met since he was reborn. Tang Linglong had killed many of the Cherry Blossom Society's whalers in the East China Sea and caused a huge commotion. She was persecuted by the newly risen Condor team and was sent to Japan for trial. Jiang Tian took the blame on behalf of his disciple and went to Japan to suppress the Japanese cultivation world in the name of trial. And on the sea to East Ocean, Jiang Tian met an incomparably coquettish young man who was riding a whale and killing whaling ships, Du Guxiao. In Japan, Jiang Tian, Du Guxiao, and Yi Zhantian dominated the Japanese cultivation world and fought to their heart's content. Jiang Tian really dominated East Asia in that battle and became famous all over the world. But after the battle, Du Guxiao was taken back to his sect by Taoist master Qing Mu and never saw him again. The cultivators of the Yin sect had always been aloof from the world and focused on cultivation. They were even more low-key than the reclusive royalty. The 9 elders of Hongmeng were only a few. Regarding this, Jiang Tian also had an understanding attitude. Who would have thought that when the nest was overturned, no egg would remain intact? They still couldn't escape the turmoil of the world. After the Spirit Qi recovery, many ancient mystic realms on Earth, including those of the Lanyi Academy, were affected by the changes of the laws of heaven and earth. When the Big Dipper demon clan invaded, these secret realms that were rich in spirit energy naturally became the targets that the demon clan wanted to occupy the most. They fell one after another. On the other hand, the cultivators of Lanyi Academy were rather lucky. In the end, they managed to escape from the siege of many demons. After Heavenly Scorpion Lord and the others were expelled, Zhou Xian and the others returned to their mystic realms. At the same time, the forces of the Beihan sect also moved in. However, Heavenly Scorpion Lord hid the Dharma artifact with a secret technique and left it in the Langyi Academy. But Zhou Xian and the cultivators of the Beihan sect didn't know about it. Heavenly Scorpion Emperor also played a trick on him. Who would have thought that the evidence that Han Ming Zongzi was trying so hard to find was right under their feet on Earth? From the capital to the Hengduan Mountains, we have to cross almost half of Wuxia. I'm afraid we'll meet many old friends along the way. Jiang Tian stroked his chin and muttered to himself. But since we're in Beijing, we should go and see Zhang Yilan. The Snow God Palace that wants to buy my livestream is actually the puppet of the Snow God Palace on Earth. They are also the henchmen of the Beihan sect. I'm afraid they don't come with good intentions. I have to go take a look. One of them, a young man in a snow-white training suit, pulled Elder Jing down and explained, Elder Jing, just now the cultivators of the Snow God's Palace went to negotiate with Zhang Yilan. I heard that they didn't come to an agreement and even fought. Zhang Huchen, the foundation establishment cultivator of the Zhang family, knelt down after being slapped. The villa is a mess now. It has been destroyed. Zhang Jinghua is Kong Teichu's grandfather. The Zhang family of Yanjin is backed by Sidoni's Tianqing school. In the past few years they have been doing everything in Wuxia. How dare they fight with the Snow God's Palace? Old Jing was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Hey, that's old news. Grandpa Jing, don't you read the news? The young man stomped his feet and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now that the Tianqing school has suffered heavy losses in the battle against the monsters, there are only a few big and small cats left. They are already on the verge of collapse, but they still took in the demons and became the target of public criticism. They can't even protect themselves, let alone the Zhang family. Those orthodoxies with extraterrestrial backgrounds are the ones with a lot of talents and strong soldiers. I think so. This time the Zhang family is in trouble. They might be removed from the list. As soon as he said that, everyone nodded. Back then Kong Teichu dominated the world alone. He was respected by all the worlds in Tianqing Heavenly State and West Earth. How peerless and unparalleled was he? Who would have thought that in just 5 years, there would be new talents in the pugilistic world, and the new generation would replace the old? Old Jing was stunned for a moment. He had mixed feelings in his heart and sighed. No one noticed that when they hurried down the mountain, an invisible ray of light tore through the air and swept across the sky above their heads. In the Shuangqing villa, under the milky white moonlight, the place was in a mess. The octagonal pavilion had already collapsed. More than a dozen corpses were lying on the ground, and the blood stained the marble floor. Like a stream, the falling red maple leaves were sent into the Shuangqing spring water filled with spiritual aura. The two forces were clearly at loggerheads. Zhang Yilan, do you still want people to die? You've seen how powerful the palace of the Snow God is. If you continue to resist, only death will await you. Hand over the shares to us. Yi Yuhui, who was already in the Golden Core realm and wearing a white Taoist robe, stood behind an old man wearing a black robe embroidered with the words, Palace of the Snow God, and said with a cold voice. On the side of the Palace of the Snow God, there were a total of more than 10 Golden Core cultivators. They wore the standard robes given by the Palace of the Snow God, and each of them had a solemn aura. Chapter 17:12. You want to take the shares? Sure, but you have to kill me. Zhang Yilan was now 27 or 28 years old. Although she was at the foundation establishment stage, she was still wearing a beige business suit, high heels, and silky stockings that wrapped around her slender legs. She was graceful and elegant, with exquisite makeup on her pretty face and a pair of black-rimmed glasses on her nose. She was dressed like a strong woman in the workplace. Facing the heavy pressure, her face was cold and she didn't give in at all. On her side, Han Qingli, the financial director and the daughter of the Han family in Yanjin, and Zhao Qianru, the vice president and Jiang Tian's sister-in-law, were all nervous and angry. Zhang Huchen, who had just swallowed a healing elixir, was sitting on a chair with a pale face and groaning. Next to him, Zhang Jiangfeng was hesitant and his eyes were full of fear. Stubborn. The old man sitting on the stone bench suddenly slammed his hand on the table. The marble table immediately turned to dust. He released his aura and coldly shouted, "Who are you?" He said with a cold voice, "We'll not only give you 10 billion crystal stones, but we'll also take you into the palace to practice cultivation arts. This is your great fortune, the good fortune of your 8 lifetimes. It's just worldly wealth, but you're so addicted to it. You're really stubborn." Someone from Wuxia's cultivation world was there. They would definitely recognize this person. He was the most famous grandmaster in history before the spirit chi recovery, Xianxia. This person was very untalented and had low comprehension. Although he was from a famous 8 extremities fist sect, he had only reached the transcendent grandmaster level at the age of 80. When Xianxia became a young grandmaster, the busybodies on the martial arts forum and the dark net always liked to compare him with Xianxia, which made him very jealous of Xianxia. Whenever Xianxia made any movements and his cultivation base was mentioned, there would definitely be a sentence after that. You know, Xianxia reached the transcendent state at the age of 80 and he's called a grandmaster. Originally, it was an incredible achievement for him to reach the transcendent grandmaster level in the age of doom, even at the age of 80. But when compared to Xianxia, he seemed so miserable, so pitiful and so unbearable. Every time she saw this news, Elder Kai would be so angry that her hands would tremble, and her high blood pressure would almost flare up. After the battle between Xianxia and Yi Tianren, many of the forces that had betrayed Xianxia, such as the Xianxia's Yi Wudao clan and the Southwest's Wu Yingxiong clan, were eradicated. Xianxia, who was shouting the loudest at that time, was so scared that he went crazy. He vomited green bile and fainted on the spot. However, this person's cultivation was simply too low. Chapter 17:13. It's really Zhang Tian. Zhang Huchen and the others yelled the moment they saw Zhang Tian. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru widened their eyes in disbelief. Many members of the Zhang family trembled with excitement. Our sect master is back. At this moment the entire Shuangqing villa was in dead silence at first, then there was a burst of cheers. Even Xianxia and Yi Yuhui were shocked and couldn't believe it. Rumor had it that there were countless soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deity and Zhang Tian might have died there. Why did he suddenly come back? Besides, the cultivators of the Beidou sect had formed a seal with countless ships to lock Earth. Why didn't he come back at all? Sect Master. Zhang Jinghua's hands trembled and he looked over excitedly, but the next second he was startled. Oh no. Sect Master, a lot of overlords from the Snow God Palace came this time. There are at least 3 nascent soul cultivators hiding in the dark and they're all high-grade nascent soul cultivators. Each of the 3 nascent soul cultivators has 100 golden core cultivators with them, forming a snow god army. They're invincible and we can't fight them head-on. They're far more powerful than the famous sects of the Qin dynasty and the Tungus demons. Oh no, my cousin just came back. He might not know the situation. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. The Yuhui also laughed sarcastically. Ah, Kong Teichu, I didn't expect you to come back. It's good too. Let's go to the Northern Wilderness Temple and wait for orders. The sects of the other planets are supreme and all the cultivators on Earth have to surrender. In Yi Yui's mind, the cultivators on Earth couldn't compare with the cultivators of the Beidou sect at all. The latter was as superior as deities and Buddhas. The humans on Earth, including Kong Teichu, were just poor ants crawling on the ground. Ah, Kong Teichu, you're so silly. The spirit chi is recovering and the blessings of the past are erupting in this world, but you went far away and missed the best opportunity. Xianxia said smugly, when the cultivation civilization of the Beidou sect arrives, there will be 600 million cultivators in the divine land and everyone will be educated and improved. As for you, you missed the opportunity. When you left, you were a gold core cultivator. I'm afraid you're still a gold core cultivator now. He said coldly, back then I was known as the oldest grandmaster in history, but what about now? I've already reached the nascent soul stage and am known as a perfected cultivator. You, in my eyes, are nothing but a younger brother. At the same time, another 3 nascent soul perfected lords flew over with 100 golden core cultivators each, surrounding Zhang Tian in the middle. Wherever he passed, the mighty cold wind, sharp ice arrows, terrifying ice blocks, and even the cold laws were all split apart with him as the center. Some of the golden core realm cultivators were burned to ashes by the golden flames as soon as they got close to him. Then he activated the red bird divine law, and it was like the sun in the sky, burning everything. Be careful, sect master. That's the snow god's soul formation. It was formed with the blood of 100 golden core cultivators and activated by the dharma laws of a nascent soul cultivator. Can freeze divine souls and seal dimensions. It's a real forbidden realm. Don't let it go, Zhang Jinghua said worriedly. But then something even more shocking happened. The arms of the 10,000-foot-tall snow goddess actually burst into flames the moment they came within 10,000 feet of Jiang Tian. Even the laws were burned to ashes. The fire also spread along the arms to their bodies at an extremely fast speed. No. The great elder on the left screamed, his voice filled with fear, unease, and disbelief. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets as a ruthless and resolute expression flashed across his face. He had severed 6 of his arms in order to save the goddess of snow's clone. Even so, the dozens of golden core cultivators who went up to meet him were still killed. What kind of fire is that? How did it burn the snow god's clone? The Grand Elder was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian was indifferent as he continued to walk unhurriedly. His eyes seemed like they hung high up in the sky, indifferent and distant. It was as if he was looking down upon the vicissitudes of life, the changes in the world, and stood above all things. Kai Shaochen Yuhui and the others were dumbfounded. The snow god's clone was the clone of a soul formation grand cultivator. It was said to be indestructible and could freeze everything. And yet it couldn't even touch Jiang Tian and was burned like a paper lantern? That was unbelievable. After all, in their eyes, Jiang Tian was already a person behind the times. He might not even be able to defeat a nascent soul cultivator on Earth. How could he be so powerful? He could even crush the clone of the snow god easily. That was too terrifying. Kill him. The sect master of the snow god's palace gave an order with viciousness in his eyes. All these years, the Righteous Alliance had been trying to eliminate Jiang Tian's influence, but how could it be as effective as killing him? Boom. Following the palace master's command, the 3 snow deity legions immediately let out a loud rumble. They all turned into giant deities that could support the heavens and the earth. They let out a loud rumble as they charged at Jiang Tian. Each of the snow gods was 1,000 feet tall and snow was falling in a 10-mile radius. They were moving towards Jiang Tian like a mountain. Before they even got close to Jiang Tian, their terrifying energy had already arrived. Boom. Suddenly, the entire area within a few miles of Fragrant Mountain sank a few meters. Even the many protective formations and restrictions all over the capital exploded. At this moment, the tens of millions of people in the capital all looked in the direction of the Yuhua mountain villa. They were all terrified. The snow god's palace is attacking the Zhang family from the direction of the Yuhua villa. What should we do? Should we stop them? That's the snow god's palace. The Wei Rong army stationed there also noticed it immediately. They were uneasy, but they didn't dare to go and stop them. The snow god's palace was too powerful. There were hundreds of golden core cultivators and a few nascent soul cultivators. The regular army felt like ants in front of them. Cousin, be careful. That's a super formation. Don't resist it. At that moment, Zhang Yilan's face turned pale and she shouted to remind her cousin. At this time, Jiang Tian stopped and yawned as if his interest had waned. But when Jiang Tian exhaled, boom! The sun and the moon were upside down and the world was collapsing. At that moment, the world seemed to have been destroyed. Nobody would have thought that Jiang Tian's yawn would be so powerful. It was as if a heavenly lord had opened his eyes and created the world. The entire world was stirred up and the sun and moon were extinguished as Jiang Tian took a breath. Boundless divine light shot out from Jiang Tian's mouth. A mighty gale seemed to blow out from the depths of hell, obliterating one's divine soul and destroying one's body. The 3 snow god legions were like delicate flowers under a millstone, and they were forcefully crushed and crushed. The 3 nascent soul cultivators, including the sect master of the snow god's palace, were thrown 10 miles away like golf balls. Other than the 3 nascent soul cultivators, the other golden core cultivators who attacked were all killed and turned into blood mist. How can he be so powerful? The power of a husky is so terrifying. Run. Although the 3 nascent soul cultivators were able to survive, it wasn't easy for them. Their flesh was torn and blood was dripping. There were even cracks on their spirit embryos that went straight to their nascent souls. They knew they were no match for him, so they turned around and ran without saying anything. As for the others, they were even more shocked. Cousin has actually become so strong. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru felt as if they were in a dream. They couldn't believe it and their mouths were wide open for a long time. He's still the brightest, most dazzling and strongest man in this universe. Han Qingli murmured and couldn't help but think of the beautiful past when she pretended to be Jiang Tian's girlfriend and barged into the Song family's banquet. This was actually done by my grandson. Chapter 17:14. On the other hand, Yi Yuhui's face turned pale and she broke out in cold sweat. She had never thought that Kong Teichu would be so powerful. The cultivators of the Big Dipper sect, whom she worshipped like gods, were like ants in front of Jiang Tian. As for Kai Xiaochen, he was so scared that he trembled and bent his back, wishing he could kneel down before Jiang Tian. He didn't have the power of a nascent soul-perfected cultivator anymore. He was just a pitiful old man. I can kill the palace master of Snow God Palace with a snap of my fingers. Besides, you're only controlling one of his clones. You're no match for me. It's boring. Just kill them. Jiang Tianyi shook his head dispiritedly. With a look of disinterest, he flicked his fingers. Bang! Bang! 3 rays of Gengjin finger radiance shot into the sky like meteors. They tore through the air and pierced through the heavens and the earth. Their speed was unimaginably fast. The 3 nascent soul-perfected cultivators, including the palace master of Snow God Palace, couldn't dodge in time. They didn't even have time to scream before they exploded in the sky like fireworks and turned into powder. Am I dreaming? Zhang Yilin couldn't believe it. The nascent soul cultivators of Snow God Palace were much more powerful than Gu Hu of the Tungus Fiends. They were all 6th grade or 7th grade nascent soul cultivators and had a lifespan of 1,000 years. They were middle-aged nascent soul heavenly lords and were in their prime. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the power of those 3 nascent soul cultivators was comparable to that of 100 Gu Hu. And yet they were still killed by Jiang Tian with a snap of his fingers. This meant that Jiang Tian's power had increased 100 times or even a few hundred times in just 5 years. Haha, brother-in-law is so powerful. Zhao Qianru's face flushed and she cheered. She was about the same age as Zhang Yilin, but she didn't have the habit of being mature. She was still like a wild girl. As for Kai Xiaochen and Yi Yuhui, they were dumbfounded. They were more powerful and had even participated in the battle against the demons. Thus he understood even more clearly how terrifying the strength that Jiang Tian displayed was. He had killed hundreds of golden core cultivators with a yawn and killed a nascent soul heavenly lord with a flick of his finger. He was definitely as powerful as a peak stage soul formation cultivator. At the very least, he had the strength to fight against God's son Han Ming. Alliance Master is still the Alliance Master. A genius is a genius after all. At this moment, Kai Xiaochen raised his head and looked at Jiang Tian, whose robes fluttered in the wind. He revealed a bitter smile and spoke almost hysterically. He originally thought that with the help of the Big Dipper cultivators, reaching the peak of the nascent soul stage was as easy as climbing Mount Tai. He thought that he had far surpassed Jiang Tian and no longer placed Jiang Tian in his eyes. He had finally broken through the shadow that had shrouded him for the rest of his life, and the clouds parted to see the moon. He didn't expect that. He was even further away from Jiang Tian than before. It was like the distance between heaven and earth. It was like a mortal facing an immortal, still unable to catch up. That's right, the Alliance Master is still the Alliance Master. You're the boss, you'll always be the boss. Zhang Huchen rejoiced in his misfortune. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Yi Yui's face changed drastically and he trembled in fear. He couldn't even stand properly and his teeth were chattering fiercely like a machine gun. She had just threatened to kill Zhang Jinghua's family. After all, that was Jiang Tian's grandfather's family. With Jiang Tian's vengeful personality, how could he let her go? After all, it wasn't the first time that she had gone against Jiang Tian. At this moment she was extremely regretful. The regret in her heart was so strong that it couldn't be washed away even if she poured all the water in the world. Originally, when Yi Karen let her and Ji Muxian go back then, Jiang Tian didn't pursue her crime anymore. She could have concealed her identity and become a free individual cultivator. However, she couldn't resist the temptation of the Beihan sect and stood up against Jiang Tian. She had never thought that Jiang Tian would come back alive and become so powerful. when Zhang Tian floated down to the ground. Senior Tai Chu, I know I was wrong. Yi Wei couldn't control the fear in his heart anymore. He knelt down and begged for mercy. Even Kai Shaochen was no longer arrogant, and he knelt in front of Zhang Tian as if his spirit had been sucked out. They also knew that they, a nascent soul cultivator and a dozen golden core cultivators, were not enough to fill the gap between Zhang Tian's teeth, so they didn't resist at all. If you know you were wrong, go to hell. Zhang Tian looked indifferent. He waved his hand and a red sparrow true fire swept over. Everyone was immediately burned to ashes. Even the golden core cultivators who were known to be indestructible couldn't survive. Great. Seeing this, the entire Zhang family burst into an earth-shattering cheer. It was the joy of surviving a disaster, and they were excited about Zhang Tian's invincible power. Cousin. Brother-in-law. Zhang Yilin and Zhao Qianru, with tears in their eyes, threw themselves into Zhang Tian's arms, one on the left and one on the right, tightly hugging his waist. Han Qingli also rushed a few steps forward excitedly, but she stopped abruptly. She knew that Zhang Tian had always kept himself clean and was extremely cold. He had always kept a respectful distance from women. They were Zhang Tian's family and they could certainly hug him, but she didn't have any reason to. Alas, he's already the leader of the unparalleled alliance and I'm no longer that capricious girl, Han Qingli thought gloomily. Zhang Tian had a helpless expression on his face. He could only pat their heads and say with a smile, all right. You're not little girls anymore. You're all strong women in the workplace and female cultivators in the building foundation stage. Why are you still crying? Zhang Yilin let go of him embarrassedly. Brother-in-law, I miss you very much. How's my sister? Zhao Qianru still clung to Zhang Tian like an octopus and refused to let go. Her beautiful eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon, like a kitten. Your sister is fine. She's back in Sidoni. Zhang Tian said softly. Zhang Huchen reminded him worriedly, Leader, those cultivators are proficient in immortal will secret arts, communication dharma artifacts and soul badges. I'm afraid that their masters will soon know about their deaths. You have to be very careful. Don't worry. I've already cast a spell to block all immortal will and messages. They won't be able to get the relevant information. Zhang Tian used the art of creation to repair his damaged meridians and sea of qi. He smiled and said, Besides, their masters are only a few soul formation cultivators. What's there to be afraid of? I'll kill as many as they come. Hearing that, everyone looked at each other in shock. They didn't expect Zhang Tian to be so confident. They also knew that this confidence was definitely built on the foundation of strength. Leader, what's the situation in the ruins of deity? Brave. Zhang Jinghua walked over and asked with a bit of respect and uneasiness. In terms of blood, he was Zhang Tian's grandfather. But after all, he had bullied Zhang Tian's family in the early years. He was afraid that Zhang Tian would hold a grudge against him, so he had always been careful with his words and actions. He didn't dare to act like an elder at all. Instead, he was respectful like a subordinate meeting his superior. Besides, Zhang Tian's status was too high and he was too powerful. He was a bit scared in front of Zhang Tian. The earth of the ruins of deity is very powerful. There are 46 life stars. The emperors of the ruins of deity are all soul formation cultivators. The 10 divine emperors coexist in the world. There are also 3 powerful organizations, the 100 Moon Academy, the Sky Palace and the Emperor's Palace. The headmaster, the Sword God and the Heavenly River Lord are all soul formation cultivators. There are also the 6 Grotto Heavens and the 8 Guardian families. There are a total of 176 soul formation cultivators in the world. Every time Zhang Tian said a word, everyone's face turned paler. In the end, they were as pale as paper. Zhang Jinghua was on the verge of collapse. He couldn't even stand steadily. It's just like what the Big Dipper cultivators said. Is it too late to run now? Zhang Jiangfeng was so scared that he trembled and almost peed on the spot. It wasn't just him. In everyone's opinion, Zhang Tian must have been defeated and returned to Earth just to lead everyone to escape. But they didn't expect that Earth would also be occupied by the Big Dipper cultivators. But now I've killed all of them. Now I'm the Lord of the Ruins of Deity. Zhang Tian grinned and looked at him disdainfully. Zhang Jinghua was stunned and couldn't believe it. Chapter 17-15. What? Everyone exclaimed. Everyone was stunned. What did hundreds of soul formation cultivators mean? A golden core cultivator was enough to wipe out everything on Earth before the spirit chi was restored. Even the most powerful army and nuclear weapons of the Black Eagle Federation couldn't do anything to a golden core cultivator. Even after the spirit chi was restored and the Dharma laws on Earth were strengthened, 10 soul formation cultivators working together were enough to destroy all the lives on Earth in a day. The Beidou monsters only had 9 soul formation cultivators, but they were able to suppress the superpowers and occupy Earth in a dozen days. Soul formation cultivators were like gods in the human world. They could form domains, control the great Tao and merge with the world. Not even nascent soul cultivators were comparable to them. That was the difference between mortals and deities. You killed hundreds of soul formation cultivators? Everyone's voice was trembling. That's right. Zhang Tian smiled and said, I killed all the divine emperors, the master of the academy, the sword god and Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. I even killed all the 8 guardian families. From now on, the ruins of deity is no longer the enemy of Earth, but a friendly neighbor. His tone was calm as if it wasn't a tough battle but a family affair. Everyone couldn't believe it. At the moment, Zhang Tian had black hair and black eyes. He was wearing a long robe and looked handsome. He didn't look like a peerless divine lord who suppressed the ruins of deity. One had to know that it was a star system and a star system that was countless times larger than the solar system. How can it be fake? I've eaten countless golden core cultivators, nascent soul cultivators and even soul formation cultivators, let alone our alliance master. The purple true dragon showed up. It wasn't in the shape of a black dog but was covered in scales. It shook its head and wagged its tail, looking very majestic to support Zhang Tian. It also took out a Dharma artifact and played many scenes of the battle. Everyone was dumbfounded. Such a battle was simply too shocking. The sky was falling and the earth was cracking. The sun and the moon were inverted. Many mountains were razed to the ground in an instant. Many times, more than a dozen soul formation realm warriors attacked Zhang Tian together. Compared to the fierce battle between Zhang Tian and the ruins of deity, the battle to protect Earth was indeed fierce, but there was still a big gap. Good. Zhang Jinghua was so agitated that tears streamed down his face. Then he suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter grew louder and louder, eventually causing the entire Yuhua villa to tremble. As expected of the alliance chief of our Earth's mythology alliance, the #1 person in the cultivation world. With you around, what do we have to fear from Big Dipper's rascals? From that moment on, I'll declare war on the so-called righteous alliance and kick them out of the solar system. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Chapter 17-16. Yes. Zhang Yilin also nodded. I'm leaving. Take care of your defenses and be careful. Zhang Tian took one last look at Zhang Jinghua and the others, revealing a complicated expression. Then he stepped on his sword and soared into the sky, taking the big black dog and Zhang Yilin with him. Under everyone's nostalgic and hopeful gazes, he turned into a shocking rainbow and tore through the sky without looking back, disappearing into the deep night in the blink of an eye. The wind was mighty and the spiritual energy was like mist turning into rain. At this time the land of Wuxia was incomparably vast, and the mountains and rivers were magnificent. The sky was filled with all kinds of vitality energy, and the laws were as solid and heavy as steel plates. Flying high in the sky and looking down, one could see mountains and steep ridges, layers upon layers of green and ancient forests. On the ground, giant spirit veins were entrenched like dragons, full of a barbaric aura. However, in the critical 5 years of the recovery of spiritual energy, Wuxia had indeed exerted the system's advantage of concentrating power to do big things to the extreme, achieving overtaking and leaping in power. The majestic cities were as large as mountains. They were protected by formations and restrictions, and the lights were resplendent. The cultivators were as numerous as ants. At this time, due to the great changes in the terrain, the area of Wuxia was already 10 times or even dozens of times larger than before. From the capital to the Hengduan Mountains, it also expanded. Along the way, the more Zhang Tian saw, the more serious his expression became. Some secret realms had already been revealed, such as Yin Ruins, White Deer Academy, Huangjue Temple, Mount Mang, and so on. They all turned into giant cities with a radius of 100 miles and floated in the air, like immortal palaces and divine palaces, emitting powerful vitality and law fluctuations. But what made Zhang Tian angry was, most of these secret realms had already been occupied by the Big Dipper puppets. They acted tyrannically and used their power to oppress others without any restraint. They killed people as if they were cutting grass. If anyone resisted, they would immediately be turned into ashes. They were like a country within a country, completely ignoring the rules that the Mythology Alliance had set back then. Cultivators fought for mortals. The strong protected the weak. It had long been replaced by the law of the jungle. The strong were respected and the weak were ants. Strength was everything. At this time the land seemed to be prosperous and rich in spiritual energy, but in fact, the order inside had collapsed and danger lurked everywhere. It was impossible for a powerful cultivation civilization to form. Each and every one of Wuxia's hidden sects, secret realms and cultivation holy lands had already been directly or indirectly controlled by the Big Dipper cultivators, transforming them into living purgatories. Most of the time Zhang Tian was just hurrying along. He didn't care about what he saw. Right now there were too many imbalances in the world. Only by changing the fundamental concepts and rules could the world be changed. Even with Zhang Tian's ability, he would probably be exhausted to death if he had to deal with them one by one. But sometimes when encountering something too infuriating, Zhang Tian would just casually slap down and turn those evil people into ashes. Then the victims would hurriedly kowtow to the golden light in the sky, praying for the blessings of the gods. Boom! Zhang Tian's golden rainbow piercing the sun. Not only was Zhang Tian by himself, but he was also carrying Zhang Yilin and the big black dog. The key was that the laws of Earth had been strengthened at this time, and his speed was less than 1/10 of the speed in the ruins of immortality. In order to maintain the fastest speed, Zhang Tian's nascent soul roared. The blood on his body boiled, turning into clouds of laws. Rich energy seeped out of his body, fusing with his escape technique, leaving a 1-mile-long golden light in the air. The golden light was more than a mile long, and the tail flame stretched for 7 or 8 miles as if it could split the world. Any cultivator who was hurrying along hurriedly avoided it. All of them were shocked. Which divine lord was rushing down to the mortal world with such terrifying power and speed? But Zhang Tian didn't care about that. In order to rush to Langyi Academy, he almost pushed his speed to the limit. The puppets of the Freezing North sect began to search for Dharma artifacts in all the hidden sects' secret realms that had been occupied by the monster clan. There were probably cultivators of Wuxia dying for this at all times. Zhang Tian had to find the Dharma artifacts and announce it directly. He had to end the cruel rule of the Big Dipper cultivators. Faster! Zhang Tian shouted. In the end, Zhang Tian used the speed of the Kunpeng and turned into a Kunpeng that stretched 3,000 miles. It tore the dimension and split the sky open, rushing forward at a terrifying speed. At such a speed, an hour later, the silhouette of an enormous mountain range covered in ice and snow and shrouded in clouds was finally revealed. It was 1,000,000 meters tall and stretched endlessly like a jade dragon in the clouds. They had arrived at the Hengduan mountain range. If anyone knew how long it took Zhang Tian to get there, they would be terrified. The Dharma laws on Earth had been strengthened, and the space-breaking Dharma laws of nascent soul and soul formation were almost impossible to use. Even the divine lord of the Beidou sect would need at least a day to travel from the north to the south of Wuxia. His body, including his shoulder blades, had several bloody holes pierced through by the chains of law. They were fixed to the stone pillars, and as he struggled, rotten and stinking blood came out from these bloody holes. Dugashao, don't try to get close to me. I'm different from you. You're just ants and I've been accepted as a disciple of the Arctic sect. I'm just a peripheral member of the Arctic sect. In the future, I might even be able to follow the Freezing North sect to the heavens and go to the beautiful and prosperous Kaiyang galaxy. Chao Yi said with disdain, hurry up and give me the Dharma artifact. Otherwise, I'll beat you again. He brandished his long lightning whip and lashed it with crackling sounds. The few disciples of the academy around him were all whipped to the point where their flesh was split open and they were sent flying in all directions. All the disciples of the academy looked at Chao Yi with eyes that almost split apart, and they almost went mad with hatred. They clenched their fists to the point cracking sounds resounded, and they stared fixedly at the fiendish Chao Yi. In other words, they were staring at the Beihan sect, the Kaiyang planet region and the Beidou cultivators behind them with hatred. Why do you bully us like this? We're just hermits who want to stay away from the world and live in peace. Why is it that while you claim to be the alliance of justice and order and the saviors of Earth behind the scenes, you resort to trickery and murder? Why do you keep bullying us when we've never fought back? Anger surged in the hearts of the disciples of Langyi Academy. It was almost boiling and almost turned into flames. 3 months ago, the divine prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level suddenly killed Master Qing Mu and captured everyone. Since then, the disciples of the college had been rioting almost every day. But that only led to crazier suppression and killing. There were golden core perfected cultivators, dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords and a quasi-divine lord. The most powerful one among them was only a golden core cultivator, Zhou Xian. How could he be a match for them? They could only be bullied and stepped on like ants. But they were unwilling. They wanted the outside world to know the cruel truth of the Beidou cultivators. They didn't want to be slaves. They would rather die in battle than be slaves. Look at the look in your eyes. You don't seem to be convinced. But I like to see you guys looking at me with displeasure, yet unable to do anything about it. Chao Yijiao smiled arrogantly. Suddenly, he stomped on the woman and turned her into a pile of minced meat. Bastard. You're not worthy of being a human. At this moment, many cultivators of the Langyi Academy couldn't stand it anymore. One by one, the cultivators raised the boulders in their hands and threw them at Chao Yi. They activated their remaining true essence and charged at Chao Yi, disregarding their own safety and disregarding life and death. Right. I like to see you resist. Otherwise, my killing won't be fun at all. My days as a supervisor are too boring. How can I live without some fun? Ha! Chao Yi let out a wild laugh as he lashed out with his whip, turning several Langyi disciples into ashes. Chao Yi, you've been so unscrupulous. You've defected to the enemy, committed treason and killed people like flies. One day, the Alliance Master of the Earthsmiths Alliance will come back and punish you. I'll kill you and the Outer Realm cultivators behind you. Leave no one alive. Zhou Xian raised his head and roared, tears of blood flowing out from his eyes that looked like rotten flesh. The innocent smile from more than 10 years ago was no longer there. It was cold and resolute and there was only deep hatred, unwillingness and anger. Haha, are you talking about Kong Teichu? He died an unjust death. I don't know if he died in the universe or was killed by the mighty figures of the ruins of immortality. If he comes back alive, I can squash him to death with one hand. The supervisor was laughing maniacally. Suddenly, boom. Heaven and earth trembled violently. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed as if a great earthquake had erupted. What's going on? Could it be that a meteorite came and destroyed the small world? All the cultivators looked up in horror. Jiang Tian had arrived. Chapter 17:17. Oh no. Someone's attacking the secret realm. A nascent soul commander said solemnly. Who dares to attack the Langyi secret realm? Aren't they afraid that the Beihan sect will kill them? Besides, even if he's a soul formation cultivator, he might not be able to break it easily. Many nascent soul heavenly lords flew out of the fortresses and looked up at the sky with astonishment. As for Chao Yi, he revealed a proud smile. He felt that the person outside was like an ant trying to shake a tree, like an egg striking a stone. The array of the secret realm had been strengthened by the Beihan sect and was 100 times stronger than the Dharma array of the ancient mountain. However, to everyone's surprise, the strength of the person who was attacking them was too shocking and terrifying. Another loud rumble was heard. A deep dent appeared in the clear and slightly bright barrier. Shocking cracks appeared on it. With the point of impact as the center, the cracks extended for dozens of miles and covered half of the sky. The cracks had yet to recover and dissipate. Whoosh! It was as if a peerless heavenly blade had slashed down. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Amidst the explosion of golden light, a huge crack that was more than a mile wide and 10 miles long was directly split open in the tight boundary. Then a golden rainbow that pierced through the heavens and earth rushed into this world. What? Everyone exclaimed. They couldn't believe it. This barrier, which was strong enough to stop soul formation grand cultivators, was broken in no time. Who is it? Everyone raised their heads to look over. and their pupils constricted abruptly while their expressions became heavy as if they were facing a great enemy. Chao Yi was even terrified to the point his countenance was pale as a sheet, and he couldn't even stand steadily. A black-haired, black-eyed man in black clothes stood within the golden ray of light. His appearance was handsome like a god, his skin was crystalline like jade, and it emanated a dazzling and gentle glow of treasures and divine radiance, causing him to seem extremely miraculous. Next to the man stood a beautiful woman dressed like an office worker from the secular world. Around her was a 100-meter-long purple-gold true dragon with dense scales. It was majestic, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Sect Master Tai Chu. Sect Master Tai Chu is back. He's here to save us. Sect Master Tai Chu, you have to avenge the disciples of the Langyia Academy. Some disciples of the Langyia Academy who recognized Jiang Tian yelled with joy. Then all the disciples in the secret realm of the academy cried and knelt on the ground, kowtowing to Jiang Tian. Even more people were roaring madly. They had endured for too long. Finally, it was time for Jiang Tian to make a domineering return. Brother Chu, no, Sect Master, have you reached the soul formation level? That's great. The fact that Jiang Tian had killed a few nascent soul heavenly lords and almost 100 golden core cultivators proved that he was as powerful as a soul formation cultivator and qualified to be called a divine lord. Trying to escape? Do you think you're faster than me? Jiang Tian's laughter was filled with disdain. The Kun Peng quickly broke through the space. Sometimes it was like a fleeting shadow, sometimes it was like a bolt of lightning. Although it was launched later, it arrived first and continuously slapped down. Bang bang bang. There seemed to be many giant fireworks in the sky which were extremely beautiful and breathtaking. Dozens of golden core cultivators and a few nascent soul cultivators died every time Jiang Tian slapped down. Their golden cores and nascent souls would uncontrollably explode and let out colorful lights. If one didn't consider the terrifying power of the explosions, the beautiful scene would be far more beautiful than any fireworks show. Kong Teichu, this secret land has been rented by the Beihan sect and has been authorized by the Earth's mythical alliance. You killed so many people in the Beihan sect's territory. The Beihan sect won't let you go. Some puppets of the Beihan sect were more courageous. They threatened while running away. Sect Master Taichu, I surrender. Spare my life, I am willing to follow you and serve you faithfully. I am willing to be at your beck and call, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not hesitate. I'll be loyal to you for the rest of my life. Chao Yi was so frightened that he peed his pants. He ran away crazily and begged for mercy. Tears and snot rolled down his face. He was so scared that he almost lost his mind. He had never thought that Kong Teichu would come back alive. After all, according to the cultivators of the Beidu sect, Jiang Tian had died in the ruins of deity. Besides, he had never thought that Jiang Tian would become so powerful. Haha, didn't you say that you're going to kill me with one slap? Now I'm here. Do it. Jiang Tian smiled coldly. His body swayed and he transformed into the gung metal immortal body. He was more than 1,000 feet tall and he stood tall in the sky. He waved his hand and grabbed Chao Yi in his hand. Sect Master Taiyu, please spare my life. At this moment Chao Yi was like a fly in the hand of a human in the enormous palm, and he seemed extremely tiny and weak. No matter how he struggled, he was unable to break free in the slightest. He wailed and begged for mercy in despair and he seemed extremely pitiful. Poof! Jiang Tian squeezed gently and Chao Yi exploded like a rotten tomato. Before he died, his face was still full of shock and unwillingness. He couldn't believe that he would die just like that after becoming a nascent soul cultivator for less than a year and acting like a tyrant. Kill! The purple true dragon roared and rushed out. It opened its mouth and swallowed crazily. Chapter 17-18. Don't worry. I won't let him get away with it. Jiang Tian stared at the most central, most magnificent and tallest palace-like fortress in the academy. Layer after layer of talisman formations were inscribed on the walls and pillars of this fort, and the fluctuations of dermic energy were extremely strong. Moreover, the decorations were comparatively luxurious, and it wasn't as simple and natural as the other forts. Obviously, a great figure resided within it. He was sure that it was the divine prince who was half a step away from the soul formation level. Jiang Tian took a step in the air and flew towards the fortress at a seemingly slow speed. The remaining nascent soul and golden cores were not enough for the purple golden true dragon, so Jiang Tian didn't want to kill anymore. I'm the divine prince of the Beihan sect, Qianlong Kong Teichu. You're very talented. My Zhongzi Han Ming cherishes talents the most. If you're willing to surrender, I'm willing to introduce you. I promise I won't punish you for what you did today. The divine prince in the fortress sensed Jiang Tian's energy and immediately sent out a message with his immortal will. I'm here to kill. Not to be a dog of the Beihan sect. Jiang Tian refused with a smile and approached him at a steady pace. Are you worried that I'll go back on my words and Han Ming will punish you? Qianlong said with a hint of disdain. The cultivators you killed on Earth are just puppets that we've cultivated. They're not worth mentioning. It's okay to kill them. Han Ming doesn't care about their lives at all. Han Ming Zhongzi is nothing. In my eyes, you're worse than a dog. Jiang Tian said with disdain. Cut the crap. I'll kill you today to avenge Master Qing Mu and the cultivators of Xianxia. Kong Teichu, how dare you disrespect Han Ming? Divine Prince Qianlong roared with murderous intent. In his mind, Han Ming was a divine soul formation stage cultivator with unparalleled talents and wisdom. He was truly like a saint. He had seen Han Ming conquer many planet regions and star oceans. Killing normal divine soul formation stage cultivators was as easy as chopping vegetables. He was always invincible. Whether it was the sect masters of the divine sects or the masters of the star field, they all treated him with respect and did not dare to offend him. Even in the entire Mizar star system or even the Big Dipper star system, Han Ming Zhongzi had a pivotal position. This kid, a mere cultivator from a remote planet, actually dared to be disrespectful to Han Ming. He deserved to be hacked into pieces. So what if he was the #1 person on Earth? In the vast Big Dipper constellation he had seen many such geniuses and had even killed many of them. Kong Teichu, who do you think you are? Do you think you can kill me? Qianlong shouted and released his aura. Rumble. The world shook and the energy of a quasi-divine lord was launched towards Jiang Tian. In a blink, the essence chi in the world boiled like an ocean and the true essence was like waves hitting the shore. All kinds of Dharma laws were extremely condensed and vast. Suddenly, the disciples of Langyi Academy who were chasing after him stopped in their tracks, and they were sent flying backwards like wood shavings. Many of them knelt on the ground and their bones cracked, as if they were about to be crushed into meat paste in the next second. Is this the power of a half-step soul formation cultivator? No wonder Master Qing Mu was killed by him with one slap. Countless people were shocked. Divine Prince Qianlong rarely showed up. They had never met him, let alone fought with him. They had never thought that a quasi-divine lord could be so terrifying. Many disciples of the Langyi Academy who had been confident in Jiang Tian suddenly felt uneasy and worried about Jiang Tian. Will Senior Taichu be a match for him? At that moment, everyone stopped what they were doing. Qianlong's subordinates also looked at the two in the sky, because they knew that the two in the sky were the ones who would decide their fate. If either side won, how could the followers of the other side escape death? They could just kill them. Kong Teichu, you deserve to die. Boom. Qianlong stood on an ice chariot and rushed out of the palace. He was wearing a heavy armor made of dark iron and was surrounded by the ice Dharma laws. It was so cold that it froze the air. The ice chariot was like an ice sculpture. It was covered with all kinds of patterns and was pulled by 4 nascent soul giant ice bears. Qianlong's every word shook the void and froze the space. Even the mountain peak cracked. All kinds of green plants were instantly covered in ice crystals and lost their vitality. They were like ice sculptures. Countless disciples of the Langyi Academy were stunned. If the purple true dragon didn't protect them, all of them would have died. That's terrifying. The cultivators of the Big Dipper sect are indeed powerful. Will Senior Taichu be a match for them? Many people were hesitant. Duge Xiao was worried about Jiang Tian and even Zhang Yilan couldn't stay calm. After all, the people Jiang Tian killed before were the puppets of the Beihan sect and cultivators from Earth. But Qianlong was a real cultivator of the Beihan sect. Qianlong, not only do you deserve to die, but the Beihan sect behind you also deserves to die. Jiang Tian's killing intent was gradually released. It rose into the sky like a smoke signal and it shook the bull. His voice was so cold that it sounded like a cold gust of wind that came from the depths of hell. I'll kill all the invaders of the Beihan sect and wash the planet with blood. One day I'll even go to the Beihan sect in the Beidou planet region and the Kaiyang planet region. I'll destroy the Beihan sect and uproot it. The Ice Heart realm can see through essence, chi, dharma laws, dimension and divine soul. Why is it useless against him? Qinlong's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Go to hell. Jiang Tianxin's hand snapped as if he was breaking a hemp pole. He directly broke the divine spear into two halves. In front of Qinlong's frightened eyes, he unleashed a punch that caused Qinlong to spit out blood. His chest caved in as he flew away. How is that possible? That's a quasi-sacred weapon. Do you think it's a sugar cane? Godchild Qinlong was sent flying like a rag doll with a single punch. No, he's more like a chicken or a dog. He can't even withstand a single blow. Many cultivators of the Beihan sect screamed as if their mothers had died. What they had seen was too shocking. It was completely out of their expectations. But Qinlong didn't die. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, he turned around and tried to escape. No wonder he's so resilient. He's a 9th grade peak stage nascent soul cultivator. He's as powerful as the soul formation cultivators in the ruins of deities. Jiang Tian scanned with his immortal will and was enlightened. Resilient? But I'd like to see how long you can last. Jiang Tian grinned. Swish. Jiang Tian didn't give him a chance. He used the Kunping to catch up with him. Krek. Jiang Tian punched countless times and many of Divine Prince Qinlong's bones were broken. In the end, Jiang Tian stomped on the ground. He and his chariot were stomped into the depths of the small world, creating a giant pit a few kilometers wide. His nascent soul and his body were smashed into meat paste. At that moment, the entire small world was in silence. All the cultivators of the Beihan sect looked pale and couldn't believe what they had seen. The entire small world was boiling. The cultivators of the Xianxia sect who had been oppressed for 3 months started to fight back. At this moment, along with this half-step divine lord being crushed by Jiang Tian, the situation of the battle had completely reversed, becoming a foregone conclusion. There was no need for Jiang Tian to do anything. Everyone was fighting bravely. There were even puppet cultivators that were torn to pieces and eaten alive. It was too tragic. The disciples of the Xianxia sect had been bullied too badly. Thousands of people had died in 3 months. Parents had lost their children and women had lost their husbands. Many orphans and widows were crying helplessly. Those cultivators of the Xianxia sect had been tortured to death. It was extremely miserable and inhumane. The entire Xianxia sect had turned into a terrifying sea of blood. As for Jiang Tian, he scanned the area with his divine sense. Finally, in an extremely hidden cave, he found the imprint left behind by Divine Lord Scorpio. Jiang Tian raised his hand and grabbed it. After confirming that there was no mistake, his expression turned serious as he said in a deep voice, "Yilin, immediately release this video to the entire world." However, Jiang Tian took out precious medicinal pills to heal them. He even ignored his noble status and personally nursed them back to health. How could they not be moved? Brother-in-law, I've already broadcasted the images in the image to the entire world through my livestream. What should we do next? Zhang Yilin asked. Give them 3 days to think about it. Once the 3 days are up, if they still don't declare war on the Big Dipper cultivators, they can all be killed. Jiang Tian's face was indifferent as he said coldly. My livestream platform was already the most popular livestream platform after the recovery of Spirit Chi. In fact, a few years ago, a large number of venture capital and funds had entered the video livestream industry to expand and seize the market. However, they still didn't reach the level of my livestream. Especially after the recovery of Spirit Chi, my livestream signed a large number of cultivators and opened up a large number of cultivation-related channels, which made my livestream even more popular. In the end, it defeated all the other competitors or acquired them. Today, my livestream platform had the largest market share in the world. Whether it was viewers, fans, or streamers, hundreds of millions of users browsed on it every day. Before the recovery of Spirit Chi, Zhou Xian was a frequent visitor on the Darknet forum and the Warrior forum, and a popular person on Weibo. After the recovery of Spirit Chi, when it entered the era of live streaming, Zhou Xian also reached the foundation establishment stage. He took the opportunity to transform and became a live-streaming internet celebrity. He was originally a demon hunting streamer. Every day he would fly outside the city and casually kill a wild boar in the qi refinement stage. He deliberately made the battle process dangerous and added some lively and cute post-production special effects to receive a lot of crystal rewards. He bought a spiritual treasure-level flying sword and lived in a high-end community equipped with a spirit-gathering array. He lived a happy life. The channels of my livestream platform were very rich. For example, outdoor live streaming, flying sword racing, talking about the world, talents and beauties, national cultivation, crystal guessing, and so on. Whether you like to kill demon beasts, refine weapons, or refine pills, or even sing and dance, you could find a stage to display your talents. Let's see what's fun today. Today, Zhou Xian didn't go out to hunt monsters. He was originally a more peaceful streamer. Yes. Zhou Xian was a fanatical fan of Jiang Tian back then. However, since the arrival of the Big Dipper Alliance, his broadsword was no longer hungry and thirsty. He keenly felt that the extraterrestrial cultivators such as the Beihan sect had been secretly dispelling Jiang Tian's influence and weakening Jiang Tian's authority. Therefore he became a real idler. He quit the Myth Alliance, stopped killing monsters, stopped fighting, and didn't join any cultivation organizations of the Big Dipper Alliance or the human race on Earth. Sometimes he would kill a few beasts for fun. Although he was very peaceful, it had become a habit for him to log in and watch my livestream every day. He immediately lay down on the tiger skin sofa and lazily opened the app on his phone. The biggest secret in history is revealed. The truth about the arrival of the Big Dipper monster clan. When he saw this banner, Zhou Xian was also stunned. He touched his chin and said, "When did my livestream become such a clickbait? But this is the livestream room of the president Zhang Yilan. Maybe there's something interesting." Zhou Xian clicked on the livestream room. Damn, it's something interesting. But as he watched, Zhou Xian suddenly sat up from the tiger skin sofa and slapped his thigh. He couldn't look away anymore. He sighed repeatedly. Damn. It turns out that the invasion of the Big Dipper monster clan was instigated by Han Ming of the Beihan sect. Damn. It turns out that Han Ming is playing a trick of killing two birds with one stone. He wants to get rid of the Scorpio Divine Lord and other monsters, and he also wants to establish an image of a savior in front of the human race on Earth. It turns out that the human race on Earth has been fooled for so many years. This video was the imprint of the secret discussion between Han Ming and the Scorpio Divine Lord. The imprint was different from ordinary holographic videos. It had the residual fluctuations of the laws, so it couldn't be faked. Therefore Zhou Xian immediately knew that it was true. This news is undoubtedly subversive. Zhang Yilan is indeed Kong Teichu's cousin. She's so bold and domineering that she even dares to release such news. Are we going to fight again? My big saber is thirsty and thirsty again. Zhou Xian was so shocked that he slapped his thigh in excitement. In fact, he wasn't the only one. Billions of cultivators and mortals on Earth were paying attention to this matter. Originally, there were many die-hard fans of Jiang Tian on Earth. When the Big Dipper Righteous Alliance arrived and began to seize power, constantly weakening Jiang Tian's influence, many cultivators and mortals were greatly dissatisfied. Although Han Ming Zongzi did it very secretly. Although Jiang Tian's supporters didn't know the inside story and couldn't find any relevant evidence. But there was always a faint feeling that the Big Dipper human cultivators were up to no good. Now, their various speculations had finally come to fruition. Did you know? It turns out that the Big Dipper human race and the Big Dipper monster clan are in cahoots. It's just that the Big Dipper monster clan was used as cannon fodder, and after occupying Earth, they were dealt with again. See, I've long said that the Big Dipper human race is up to no good. Look at the chairman's livestream room. There's something interesting. The plot twists don't be too exciting. When this heavy news was released, it could be said that a stone stirred up 1,000 ripples, and the entire world couldn't calm down. Zhang Yilan's livestream room instantly exploded, and the number of people online rose steadily, and finally reached more than 100 million people online at the same time. Moreover, there were people broadcasting, recording, or forwarding to Weibo public accounts and other platforms in the middle. Han Ming Zongzi of the Righteous Alliance is the culprit behind the Big Dipper monster clan's invasion of Earth in the past 2 years. In almost 5 minutes, this news had spread throughout Earth. Chapter 1720. Many cultivators and mortals didn't believe it at first. After all, Han Mingzongzi and the other cultivators of the Alliance of Justice and Order were too good at disguising themselves. I don't believe it. It must be fake. A Foundation establishment cultivator shook his head. It said that the Kaiyang system in the Beidou sector is much bigger than the solar system. The spirit qi and cultivation resources are 10 or 100 times richer. Why would Han Mingzongzi and the others from the Beidou sector covet Earth? It's like a true dragon swimming in the deep sea coveting the quagmire where a loach lives. We're just gauging the heart of a gentleman with our own mean measure. However, the Dharma artifact is a shadow left by the essence qi fluctuation. It can't be faked. It must be real. There's no need to discuss this anymore. Some cultivators argued. Even if this Dharma artifact is real, it can't prove Han Mingzongzi's true intentions. Maybe it's just a strategic necessity. The previous Foundation establishment cultivator argued. Han Mingzongzi is fully capable of occupying Earth, but he didn't do so. He just built some space cities in outer space or bought some concessions. If he wanted to occupy Earth, would he have stayed until now? Someone focused on how to obtain the Dharma artifact. This Dharma artifact should have been left by Lord Scorpio of the Beidou demon clan. How did it end up in Zhang Yilan's hands? Is she related to Lord Scorpio? If this is true, then we've really been used by the Alliance of Justice and Order. The Beidou demon clan is just cannon fodder. It doesn't matter if they die. But the demon clan of Earth once fought side by side with us against the invaders of the ruins of immortality on Mars. They died unjustly. Some cultivators had already begun to reflect. These discussions began in Zhang Yilan's livestream room. Soon the relevant images were reposted on major Weibo, self-media, martial arts forums and cultivator forums. The discussion further expanded and quickly grabbed the headlines of various media outlets. At this time, many puppets of the Alliance of Justice and Order had also received the news. However, it was impossible to stop and seal them. Soon the Tianqing school made a public statement. We question the justice of the Alliance of Justice and Order. We demand all Beidou cultivators and the Alliance of Justice and Order to withdraw from all secret realms and even space cities on Earth. Following that, the Western Temple of God and the new 12 Lords of God also stood on Tianqing school's side. These were the new 12 chief gods that Queen Hera had groomed and selected before she had sacrificed herself. They were deeply influenced by Queen Hera and were also her staunch supporters. In the battle with the Big Dipper monster clan, we also saw how powerful the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order is. They have more than a dozen soul formation cultivators and countless nascent soul cultivators. And they're all soul formation cultivators and nascent soul cultivators. How many soul formation cultivators are there on Earth? None. How can we fight with them? With our mouths? Under the agitation of the crowd, there were naturally many people who wanted to fight. But more people put forward opposing opinions to maintain their rationality. But we know that the enemy is the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order. Shouldn't we take revenge? Don't tell me you're going to swallow your anger and pretend that nothing happened? How can the souls of those Earth cultivators who died in the war rest in peace? We're talking and laughing with our enemies. If we don't take revenge, how can we face the world? Someone choked, full of grief and indignation. We have to fight, but not now. I used to admire Zhang Yilan's courage to publicly imprint the image. Women are not inferior to men. But now I still think that she's too impulsive. She should draw a bow but not release it. She should plan slowly and secretly join forces. As the saying goes, build high walls and slowly proclaim kings. She should have been fully prepared. Now we've alerted the enemy. The Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order knows that their scandal has been exposed and the cultivators on Earth are hostile. How can they not take action? They'll immediately change from the original policy of appeasement to a policy of suppression and extermination. Again, with the power of the cultivation world now, we can't even compare to a finger of the Big Dipper Alliance of Justice and Order. Besides, they have the more powerful North Frost sect, the Mizang Galaxy and the Alkade Galaxy behind them. Both sides engaged in a battle of words, exchanging blows back and forth, neither giving way to the other as they tore into each other. But when someone said that, the entire public opinion went silent. Many people were speechless. That was the truth. The Big Dipper Alliance was too powerful. It was formed by the cultivators of the North Frost sect and many other divine sects. There were more than a dozen soul formation cultivators in total. Any one of them could defeat everyone on Earth. For example, King Geoffrey of Atlantis and King Seti of the Pyramid were merely puppets nurtured by the Alliance of Justice and Order. Yet they were still able to suppress Li Wuji, Situ Shao, and even Lotus Old Relay. If only Kong Teichu were still here. Suddenly, someone who was drunk lamented with a dejected face. Yes. If Kong Teichu were here, the Big Dipper humans wouldn't have succeeded. They might even work with the Big Dipper monsters to kill the humans. Someone slammed the table in excitement. Back then, Kong Teichu was so powerful that he defeated all the worlds in the solar system and directly triggered the Spirit Chi revival. He planted the foundation of eternity on Earth and broke the deity trap array, allowing the entire Earth to enter a new era of Spirit Chi revival. Besides, Zhang Tian was very wise. No one could trick him, whether it was the famous preaching sects or the Tungus demons. He proposed that the mythical alliance should abandon the differences between the sects and unite the monsters and ghost cultivators, which was very prescient. It turned out that it was indeed so. The monsters on Earth weren't villains. Instead, they played an important role in suppressing the violent monsters and resisting the expeditionary army in the ruins of immortality. Later, they were completely wrongly killed. The humans of the Big Dipper humans looked similar to the humans on Earth, but they were evil people. However, people could only hope for a moment, because almost everyone thought that Zhang Tian must have died there after learning the truth about the ruins of immortality. And even if Zhang Tian came back alive, so what? A few years before the Spirit Chi revival, the eruption of Spirit Chi was the fiercest, and the cultivators improved the fastest. Kong Teichu had missed it. Besides, the Big Dipper cultivators were too strong. They belonged to an extraterrestrial civilization. How could Zhang Tian be a match for them? At this time, Geoffrey, the leader of the mythical alliance, the Pyramid King Seti, and the King of Babylon Ashur, all stood on the side of the Big Dipper alliance. They began to speak, support, and show their attitude. Since the arrival of the Big Dipper cultivators, the progress of the cultivation world on Earth is obvious to all. Zhang Yilin published this fake image of the brand, distorting the truth. We can't help but ask, what is your purpose? This image of the brand involves the Big Dipper monsters. We can't help but ask, where did you get it? Are you in cahoots with the Big Dipper monsters? In the old site of Babylon, in the secret realm of the Tower of Babel, the king of Ashur stepped out and shouted at Zhang Yilin. Chapter 1721. A person like Zhang Yilin who distorts the truth should be killed as a warning to the world. Beside the Nile River, at the top of the Black Pyramid, Pharaoh Seti shouted to the audience in the livestream room. His face was cold and murderous. Now that Spirit Chi had recovered, cultivation was no longer mysterious and superior. Instead, it had become the mainstream of the new era and even the core and support of the operation of society. Under the great changes, the leaders of the Myth Alliance were also very close to the people. They often accepted media interviews and even set up live streams. They had many followers. Zhang Yilin has an ulterior motive. She's trying to confuse the public and destroy the great unity of the Big Dipper Alliance and the Myth Alliance. The Myth Alliance strongly condemns this and orders you to apologize to the Righteous Alliance. Otherwise, you will be arrested and convicted. In Atlantis, Geoffrey announced proudly with a very strong attitude. This was not an ordinary threat. He was speaking on behalf of the Myth Alliance. His words carried weight and he made the final decision. Even though some members of the Alliance had sacrificed themselves in the battle against the Big Dipper demon race, and even though Lotus, Old Relay, Situ Shao, and Li Wuji had been suppressed, there were also new talents in the cultivation world who had risen to the top. At this time, the Myth Alliance was still very strong. It was still the top cultivation organization on Earth. There were many nascent Soul Realm cultivators and countless Golden Core Realm cultivators. If the Myth Alliance wanted to take action, Zhang Yilin could not resist at all. In the livestream room, Zhang Yilin immediately responded to the shouts of the three new giants of the Myth Alliance. Have you forgotten the oath you made when the Myth Alliance was first established? 5 years ago you guys were greedy for peace, obstructing the recovery of spiritual energy, or trying to seize control of the Myth Alliance. You guys fought a fierce battle with my cousin in Tunguska and were utterly defeated. You knelt and begged for mercy, calling yourselves Taoist ancestors. If it weren't for my cousin's mercy, you losers would have been reduced to ashes. Especially Jeffrey, he was even willing to acknowledge my cousin as his foster father, saying "Long live my foster father," and swearing eternal loyalty. Now you've turned your back on us. You've thrown aside the alliance declaration, purpose and doctrine that you worshipped back then. You've disregarded your oath back then as bullshit. Do you have any shame? Zhang Yilin was a businesswoman to begin with, and she started her business by researching live streaming. She often negotiated business deals or hosted various events. Perhaps she was not good at cultivation, but when it came to talking, she had no problem taking on 3 or 4 people at once. All of a sudden, the live stream was flooded with messages. The fans were sending gifts like crazy, and the number of people online soared again. Some even went to Jeffrey and the other two's live stream to curse at them. 66666. What Mr. Zhang said makes sense. Well said. 100 flying swords. Awesome. It was too satisfying. I'll give him a spiritual grade flying boat. Jeffrey is shameless. He likes to be a godson. I heard that he's planning to become Han Ming Zongzi's godson. Jeffrey, let's not talk about you. Do you think you deserve to be the leader of the Myth Alliance? Even if you're the director of our neighborhood's public toilet, you're not qualified. Director Zhang has already taken out the image imprint artifact. The evidence is conclusive, yet these 3 old farts still want to quibble on behalf of the Big Dipper Cultivator. Are you the Alliance Master and Vice Alliance Master of Myth Alliance? You're all just a bunch of bootlickers. The one with milk is the mother. Why don't you think about it? If the leader of the Taichu Alliance did not give them the status and opportunity to teach them cultivation techniques, would they be where they are today? Now the leader of the Taichu Alliance has just left for a few days and they're biting the hand that feeds them. They're shameless to the extreme. Faced with Zhang Yilin's sharp tongue, the 3 leaders of the new Myth Alliance were speechless. Especially when the netizens agreed with them, it made them even more furious. In the end, Pharaoh Seth, the Assyrian king of Babel, Jeffrey and Zhang Yilin contacted them. Seth was the first to shed all pretense of cordiality. He snarled coldly, "Back then Kong Taichu used his power to oppress us. We had no choice but to put up with him and endure the humiliation. But now it's no longer his time. Do you think that if Kong Taichu looks back you won't be afraid either?" Zhang Yilin asked with a half-smile. Seth smiled proudly and said, "I told you this is no longer his time. We're all nascent soul cultivators now, and we're all nascent soul cultivators who have been taught by cultivators from other planets. Kong Taichu is nothing compared to us." Very good. Very confident. I hope that when Kong Taichu returns one day, you can still say the same thing in front of him. Zhang Yilin sneered. Of course. Seth was full of confidence. He was no longer the same as before. He didn't take Jiang Tian seriously at all. Not only him, the Assyrian king also spoke. "Ms. Zhang, you're too naive to ask this question. You probably don't know how powerful the Beidou cultivation civilization is. In terms of the difference in cultivation civilization, for example, Big Dipper is like Silicon Valley, which is flourishing with technology. On the other hand, Earth, including the orthodoxy of the Tianqing sect, is like the slash-and-burn cultivation in the primitive jungles of Africa." He was brimming with immense confidence and inflated to the extreme as he proudly said, "Back then Jiang Taichu seemed to be riding a motorcycle. Of course it was much faster than us walking. For us to prostrate ourselves in worship, it is difficult for us to look up to him. But is a motorcycle the fastest? Don't forget that there are supersonic fighter jets and rockets. Unfortunately, the cultivation civilization of Big Dipper is a supersonic fighter jet. It's not something that Jiang Taichu, who rides a broken motorcycle, can compare to. There are thousands of principles in the world, but the biggest principle is that whoever has the biggest fist is right. In the eyes of the Beidou cultivators and even in the eyes of us, Kong Taichu is just an ant." He looked at Jiang Tian with disdain as if he were an ant under his feet. "Haha, you don't know that in Kong Taichu's eyes, you are also ants." Zhang Yilin couldn't help but laugh. However, before the lid was about to be lifted, she would not say that Jiang Tian had already returned in a powerful manner. Let them jump around, the happier they jump the better. Now was the best time to expose all the spies and traitors. "Jeffrey, you called Kong Taichu your adoptive father. Aren't you afraid that Dad will beat you for betraying him like this?" Zhang Yilin said mockingly. At the mention of acknowledging a thief as his father, Joffrey was so angry that his face turned red, then black, then white before finally turning completely green. He said angrily, Wuxia once said, "The heavens don't disappoint those who work hard, and the heavens don't disappoint those who work hard." Isn't it the same for me? Father Aomu was killed by Jiang Taichu with his own hands. Think about it, if I had the slightest bit of conscience, how could I recognize Jiang Taichu, the person who killed my father, as my foster father? The answer is in that story. I took Jiang Taichu as my adoptive father in order to dissolve his enmity, so that I can take my revenge one day. I have never really surrendered to him. How could I betray him? Joffrey said righteously. Very well. I hope you will remember what you said today and don't regret it. When Zhang Yilin ended the connection, she was on a flying boat. Nowadays, the development of Dharma artifacts such as crystal ships and flying swords had taken over the aerospace market. Jiang Tian had bought this flying ship in a small town at the foot of Hengduan Mountain. It was very affordable and was worth only a few million yuan. Besides, its speed was close to the speed of sound, which was enough for daily use. It also had an autopilot function which allowed Jiang Tian to sit cross-legged and take a break. Jiang Tian was worried that the Beihan faction would find out about his whereabouts, so he used the strategy of swimming back to the sea. The Langi Academy was disbanded and the disciples sneaked into other cities. The current Wuxia was too large for any orthodoxy or force to fully control. It was like spilling a glass of water in the desert. Even if the Beihan faction wanted to kill them, they could not do it quickly. She said to Jiang Tian, who was sitting in the passenger seat and looking at his phone, "Cousin, did you hear what they said? They're not human." In fact, I didn't trust Joffrey, the king of Assyria, and Sudi. I wanted to get rid of them. Jiang Tian looked away from the electronic screen, looked at the clouds outside the window and sighed helplessly. He sighed and said, "But gossip is a fearful thing. If I had killed them quickly, I would have killed them. People would have said that I was cruel and unscrupulous. They would have even cursed me to die a horrible death. But I didn't kill them. They betrayed me today." Of the many onlookers who were watching from the sidelines, some of them were on my side and hated them to the core. But some of them will say that I was too soft-hearted and indecisive. They said that I was not decisive enough and that they deserved it. Zhang Yilin nodded and said, "Yes, cousin. I also think that you are in a tough spot." As for Jiang Tian, he was flying to Gold City. The Mythological Alliance's competition was going to be held. It was going to be held in Jin City. Ji Muxian, Ji Mingchuan, and almost all the sects in Wuxia would be there. The significance of Ji Muxian holding such an important exchange meeting in Jiang Tian's hometown was self-evident. It was to announce to the world. The new generation would replace the old. Jiang Tian's era was over. This is a good opportunity to kill them all. Jiang Tian flicked his finger as a cold glint flashed in his eyes as he thought to himself. Chapter 1722. The current mythology alliance included almost all the cultivation sects and clans, big and small. It didn't matter if they were new or old, martial arts, spells, or pure cultivation. The latest competition of the Myth Alliance was held in Jin City. When the news spread, it immediately caused an uproar and many speculated. Haha, they purposely held it in Kong Teichu's hometown. But Kong Teichu's forces, other than the Tianqing School and Sidoni Dojo, are not much left. Isn't this a slap to Kong Teichu's face? Isn't that so? Now the old cultivation forces in Wuxia have been replaced by some new orthodoxies. For example, the Boundless Dojo, the Snow God's Palace, the Desolation Temple, the Arctic Academy, and so on are all supported by the Boundless Sect and the Snow God's Palace. There are many nascent soul cultivators. Not to mention that the Freezing North Sect is behind him. Now, Kong Teichu's forces have almost withdrawn from Wuxia and are entrenched in Sidoni. If they were to lose their last piece of territory, Tianqing School will completely disappear from this world. Yeah, back then the strongest under Kong Teichu's command were only Jinlong, Hades and Lotus. In terms of cultivation, they were only in the nascent soul realm. The rest were Kong Teichu and a few other core formation cultivators. And the kind that has no grade. Unlike now, the orthodoxies are too prosperous. This should be the last competition of the Myth Alliance. The previous few times, the Tianqing sect had been defeated in the grand competition. If they lose again, they will lose 10 times in a row. Tianqing School will not be able to raise its head in the future. What a pity. The disciples of Tianqing school are too loyal and honest. In order to protect Earth, the three giants Yi Tianren and Huqing Tian and so on have all died on Mars. Otherwise, they might not have lost control of the Myth Alliance. Many people sighed regretfully. If only Kang Teichu was still here. Someone couldn't help but sigh. But immediately there were rebuttals from below. Stop dreaming. Kang Teichu had already died in the ruins of immortality. He was only a golden core cultivator back then. It was difficult for him to challenge a nascent soul cultivator, let alone a soul formation cultivator. Do you know how many nascent soul cultivators there are in the ruins of immortality? There were at least 10,000 people. More than 100 semi-god realm warriors. Besides, even if Jiang Taichu comes back with his strength, can the trash golden core cultivators like Yu Wendon, Gu Hu and Arthur be compared to the new nascent soul cultivators like Zhang Huayan, Qi Jinglei, Tsing Yilong and Yang Chen? I heard that they are all 9th stage nascent soul realm cultivators. They will definitely reach the divinity transformation realm in the future. Not even nuclear weapons could kill them. Looking at the deeds of these people, they really have the intention of calling themselves the kings of the south because they have no ability at all. 5 supreme powerhouses, 5 heavenly lords, my ass. Pooh. Trash. In front of my cousin all of them are ashes. Zhang Yilin waved her fist angrily and said hatefully, "Brother, after seeing the shameless faces of those giants of the mythological alliance today, I really can't stand it. Especially Qi Jinglei, Tsing Yilong, Yang Chen and the others, they are crazily scolding me in the live broadcast. You have to stand up for me, otherwise I can't live anymore." Although she was a strong woman in the workplace, she was still a little girl in front of Jiang Tian, who said whatever was on her mind and was unscrupulous. It was probably because she had gone through hardships with Jiang Tian, so she was especially confident in this family relationship. I have to arrange it. Jiang Tian had only been back for a few days, but now he had learned some popular words on Earth. Jin City was now very prosperous. It had become a giant city that had both a sense of technology and cultivation. It was also a harmonious city. In the sky, flying boats came one after another and flying swords streaked across the sky. They were gathered from all over the country and even the world. The exchange of the mythological alliance this time was organized by the Kunlun sect, and its influence was not small. Kunlun Building. Located by the Qinhuai River, it was the new landmark building of Gold City. It was more than 1,000 meters tall and had more than 200 floors, known as the tallest building in Gold City. The boss's background was very mysterious. It was said that there was a real nascent soul heavenly lord behind him. Even the most arrogant young masters of Gold City would not dare to be presumptuous when they came here. Even a dragon would have to lie low, and even a fierce tiger would have to hide its claws and teeth. And the official hotel of the exchange event was here. Nowadays, martial artists and cultivators had reached the highest level. They could fly in the sky and burrow underground, and they were also very destructive. A golden core cultivator could easily destroy a city, not to mention a nascent soul cultivator. Therefore, the competition was held at a military training ground dozens of kilometers away from the hotel. Prek. At this time, the entrance of the Kunlun building was flashing non-stop. Luxury cars drove over one after another, and all sorts of men and women in suits and evening gowns walked out of them. Many media reporters even blocked the entrance of the building. Li Huiyan. She's the most popular celebrity in Wuxia and the world. I didn't expect her to be here too. I even heard that the young master of Zhang Huayan's family once expressed his love for her. Li Jinju, the goddess of South Korea, is here too. I heard that many golden core perfected cultivators are her fanatical admirers and pursuers. Not only does she control the Star Moon Group, the biggest conglomerate in South Korea, but she's also an all-round actress in the film industry. The reporters talked to each other excitedly as they took photos. Not only were there cultivators, but there were also rich and powerful people. There were even some celebrities and artists who were there to embellish the event. Although the grand competition was the core of this so-called exchange event, the merging of various interests, the intertwining of connections and the facilitation of transactions were also important contents. It's so lively here. Jiang Tian walked among the crowd in the building. He was wearing an old robe and a pair of sunglasses. He had also changed his appearance with the art of deceiving the heavens. Zhang Yilin, who had also changed her appearance with a secret art, walked among the crowd. Someone said helplessly, "Now who dares to provoke the Kunlun sect's Zhou Xian and the Dragon Slayer clan's Zhang Huayan clan?" In the beginning, the Zhang Huayan clan had kept a low profile. But after the recovery of spirit qi, they began to rise. Especially after they received the support of the Beihan sect, they became the vanguard of killing monsters and killed many dragons and werewolves. By then they had taken over the Dragon Lake in Changbai Mountain and were known as the Dragon Slayer clan. Then the Qi family of Shanghai, who represented the Wuya arena, and the Zheng family of East Sea, who represented the Desolation Temple, came one after another. They all had one thing in common. They were backed by the Beihan sect and the Righteous Alliance and had obtained the art of Beidou. In the new era, these new families were thriving and their wealth was comparable to that of a country. They were far more powerful than the Zhang Jinghua clan, the Yi family, the Song family, the Lu family and the Mo family of Yanjin. This is strange. Why aren't Zhang Huayan and Zhou Xian here? A reporter was puzzled. He wanted to get some important news. He's a peerless overlord standing at the top of Wuxia. He's a nascent soul heavenly lord, just like a real deity. If they wanted to communicate, they could only do it on the clouds. How could they do it in the boundless secular world? Disregarding everything else, even a golden core cultivator could reach a height of 100 meters if he unleashed his Dharma idol slightly. Wouldn't the Kunlun building collapse? Another reporter laughed. Wait a minute. In the banquet hall, Jiang Tian and Zhang Yilin were strolling around and eating when suddenly, Jiang Tian's arm was pulled by someone. Jiang Tian came back to his senses and saw Li Huiyan looking at him deeply. Her eyes were filled with panic and there were a few tears in them. At this moment, countless people looked at Jiang Tian with jealousy. Li Huiyan had always been clean and had never been involved in any scandals. But now she had taken the initiative to grab a man's arm. Besides, the man's appearance and temperament were ordinary. What did he do? Is my art of creation really that bad? How did she recognize me? Jiang Tian thought to himself, but his face was calm. He smiled and said, "Miss Li Huiyan, why are you looking for me?" Deliberately, his voice became very dry and hoarse. "I'm sorry. I mistook you for someone else. Your back is very similar to a friend of mine, including this lady." Li Huiyan smiled awkwardly but politely and said softly. Next to her, Li Huiyan's good sister Tang Yuyu, who was in the same brokerage company, showed a little unbearable expression and sighed softly. "Sister Huiyan, you miss him too much." But everyone said that he had died in. Nonsense. He won't die. Hearing this, Li Huiyan seemed to have been seriously stimulated. The hottest movie theme right now is undoubtedly the revival of spiritual energy. In addition to the performances of true cultivators and true demonic beasts, it's simply too explosive. At the side, everyone's gazes were cast on Li Huiyan as if they were about to spew fire. At this moment, Li Huiyan was tall with a pair of 120 centimeters long legs. Coupled with strappy high heels, she looked even taller and stood out from the crowd. Her exquisite makeup and otherworldly temperament instantly stole the limelight of everyone present. "Sorry, I'm not interested." Everyone thought that Li Huiyan would agree. However, they didn't expect that she would refuse without hesitation. Her face was cold and she kept people thousands of miles away. Everyone was puzzled and surprised, and even Tang Yi was stunned. Only Zhao Qinzi had some understanding in his heart. Because this great Lord of Heaven alluded to reality very seriously, but it erased all of Jiang Tian's contributions to the revival of spiritual energy. After Li Huiyan read the script, she was furious. How could she participate in the performance? Zhang Kai's face stiffened, but he didn't speak. "Li Huiyan, no one in Wuxia dares to not give face to my master again and again. Even if it's for my master's sake, you'll be fine. But your colleagues, friends, and even your agency may not be fine." Behind him, an old man in sackcloth walked out and said threateningly, "Are you threatening me?" Li Huiyan's face was unhappy as she snorted. "So what if I'm threatening you?" The old servant in sackcloth said proudly. He was a member of the dragon-slaying Zhang family. Even if he was just a servant, he didn't care about worldly people. Even if it was a superstar or a tycoon, they were nothing but ants in front of a cultivator. Do you know that I'm already at the foundation establishment level now? Killing you is as easy as killing a chicken. Suddenly he released his energy and pressure. He originally had chicken skin and a crane head. His figure was stooped and he looked old and ordinary. But all of a sudden he gave people the feeling that he was a towering mountain. The pressure that came from him filled 100 meters, suffocating everyone and making them shudder with fear. Sky immortals are terrifying. Everyone was shocked and stepped back. At this time the old servant in sackcloth's eyes shone and his true essence surged like a wave. He was apparently an overlord at the third level of the foundation establishment level. The third level of the foundation establishment level was called Sky Immortal, before the revival of spiritual energy. When the immortal entrapment array existed on Earth, Sky Immortal was the limit of cultivation and the peak of martial arts. Otherwise they would trigger the immortal entrapment array and die without a doubt. Back then the great celestial Yi was still a hair's breadth away from this realm, not completely reaching it. Although there were many more foundation establishment cultivators after the revival of spirit Qi, a Sky Immortal was still not to be underestimated. They were usually the overlords of a city in Wuxia. However, the old man in sackcloth, a Sky Immortal, was just a servant in front of Zhang Kai. Ah, the dragon-slaying Zhang family is too terrifying. I heard that they used to be members of the Yin sects in the secret land and have 1,000 years of foundation. They also have the support and guidance of the Beidou cultivators. No one can stop them now. An immortal state overlord exclaimed. Li Huiyan might not give in. She's Kong Teichu's friend. But there were also people who thought otherwise. Then a young man who was talking to other tycoons noticed this and quickly walked over. Jiang Tian knew him. Bai Choufei. He used to be one of the 4 young masters in Yangqing. Later he followed Jiang Tian and was also the chairman of Tiange Entertainment and Li Huiyan's boss. Bai Choufei, who was already middle-aged and appeared even more resolute and steady, revealed a somewhat angry expression. He asked coldly, Li Huiyan and Tiange Entertainment are under the protection of Tianqing sect. Your Excellency, are you threatening them in public because you want to start a war with Tianqing sect? Humph. The old man in sackcloth said disdainfully. Bai Choufei, since we're old acquaintances, I'll remind you. Now Wuxia is no longer the world of Tianqing School. After today, all the dojos of Tianqing School will change owners and withdraw from Wuxia. Also, Lord Jeffrey of the Myth Alliance will also force Tianqing School to kill demons and sign the agreement. If they don't obey, they will be trampled to death. A gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. Tianqing School can't do it, but you still cling to their thighs and resist the Dragon Slayer Zhang family. Do you want to live too long? He just snorted and Bai Choufei seemed to have been hit hard. His face was pale and he stumbled back a few steps. Boss, are you okay? Zhao Chenzi and Tang Yuyu hurriedly supported him, only to see that his 7 orifices were bleeding. It was a shocking sight. At that moment the old servant in sackcloth had already used his spiritual awareness to seriously injure Bai Choufei. Bai Choufei had also cultivated, but he was just an ordinary qi refining cultivator. There was still a big gap between him and the old servant in sackcloth who was in the Zhuji phase. He was like a 3-year-old child meeting an adult giant. Vulnerable. The old servant in sackcloth showed a sarcastic smile, then slightly leaned to the side, made a pleased gesture and said with a smile, Please Miss Li, don't embarrass the old man and don't let young Master Zhang wait for a long time. Huiyan, don't go. Bai Choufei struggled to get up, but he immediately vomited blood and his body was on the verge of collapse. He had just been hit hard by the old servant in sackcloth, and standing up was already his limit. Li Huiyan stood there alone as if there was nothing she could do, and she could only accept her fate. The people between Li Huiyan and Zhang Kai all avoided and tried to curry favor with the Zhang family. No one dared to help Li Huiyan and Bai Choufei. Behind Zhang Kai stood the Dragon Slayer Zhang family, a nascent soul great lord of heaven. Who dared to provoke him? Tang Yiyu was so anxious that her eyes were red and she was about to cry. Zhao Chenzi sighed, but there was nothing he could do. Just as Li Huiyan slowly raised her head and was about to refute. Next to her, a light and leisurely voice suddenly came. Huiyan told you to get out. Get out of here quickly. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Are you looking for death? Chapter 1725. Everyone fell silent. The entire place was deathly silent. Countless people couldn't even make the slightest sound. Countless people looked at the source of the voice. A young man in an old robe was swirling a glass of red wine. This young man had gray hair and an ordinary face, like a drop of water in the sea. No one would notice him. Who is this? How dare he go against the Zhang family? Does he want to die? In an instant, the same thought appeared in many people's minds as if they were looking at a short-lived ghost. Aunt, do you know that there are some things you can't interfere with? The hemp-clothed old servant laughed proudly with his hands behind his back. He was a dog that relied on its master's power. He was deliberately imitating Zhang Tian's movements and posture. Even though he was a member of the hidden sects, he had paid close attention to Zhang Tian back when he dominated the entire world and suppressed the various multidimensional worlds in the solar system. Zhang Tian had still left a deep impression on him, making him revere him and wish that he could be in Zhang Tian's place. However, his imitation was always a bit deliberate. Without Zhang Tian's experience, he was like a 3-year-old child pretending to be an adult. He was petty and ignorant, trying to be a tiger but ended up being a dog. This was probably his current state. Dog slave, who do you think you are? Even your ancestral patriarch Zhang Huairen doesn't have the right to be so arrogant in front of me. Zhang Tian walked over leisurely and sneered. Everyone dispersed as if they were avoiding the plague, and they opened up a path for him. They all looked at Zhang Tian with gazes of surprise, pity, and bewilderment. Where did this idiot come from? How dare he challenge the dignity of the Zhang family? Was there something wrong with his head? You're courting death. Zhang Kai was furious and his eyes were full of murderous intent. In his heart, Patriarch Zhang Huairen was an existence akin to a Buddha. How could he allow others to blaspheme him? At this moment he wanted to kill Zhang Tian on the spot. But he still held it in. The purpose of this exchange event was to deal with Tianqing school. It wasn't good to complicate things. Of course, he wouldn't really let Zhang Tian go. When Zhang Tian was alone, he could naturally make a move. Who are you? The old man carefully sized up Zhang Tian and suddenly felt that Zhang Tian was very familiar. You are not worthy of me answering your question. Zhang Tian continued to walk closer. The old man scanned Zhang Tian with his divine sense, only to find that Zhang Tian's body was empty, no different from a mortal's. His eyes were filled with contempt as he said coldly, if it weren't for young Master Zhang, there wouldn't be any accidents today. I'll definitely twist off your head and kick it like a ball. With that, he ignored Zhang Tian completely. He stared at Li Huiyan with a pair of sharp and cold eyes and said in a serious tone, Miss Li, how long are you going to keep young Master Zhang waiting? It was a clear threat. Your arrogance and confidence is really like him. Unfortunately, you're not him and you don't have his abilities. No one in this world can save me. Li Huiyan withdrew her gaze from Zhang Tian. Her eyes were filled with despair as she sighed regretfully. Zhang Kai couldn't wait any longer. He looked at the time and said leisurely, I'll go up first. Linen, remember to take her to the top floor. With that, he turned around and was about to leave. Li Huiyan, you're shameless. Don't blame this old man for offending you. The old man in linen had finally lost his patience. His face was ferocious and his eyes were cold. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed at Li Huiyan's neck like an eagle's claw. Sizzle, sizzle. The air was filled with the sound of his claw. That claw could pierce through gold and iron. If it hit, even an immortal state overlord would not be able to withstand it, let alone an ordinary person like Li Huiyan. Although Li Huiyan had a protective talisman, she could not withstand the attack of a sky immortal. Countless people felt a chill down their spines when they saw this. The cultivation world is like a primitive jungle. The strong are respected and the weak are like ants. Li Huiyuan's backer is Kong Teichu, but now that she has lost her backer, what can she do? Haha. She used to be powerful with Kong Teichu's help and no one in the world dared to offend her. Now that Kong Teichu is gone, she's not even worth mentioning. She doesn't know what's good for her. Looks like Zhang Kai only sees her as a toy. Even if he doesn't destroy her, he will definitely humiliate her. At this moment, everyone's expression was different. Some sighed regretfully, some mocked and some gloated. Do you think I'm joking? Right at this moment, everyone saw the gray-haired youth actually take another step forward, and they couldn't help but reveal strange expressions. This person was courting death again and again. I said get lost. Zhang Tiantian's words were very calm, but to the elder in the linen robe, it was like a clap of thunder. Dragon demonic roar. Zhang Tian had activated this divine power when he was at the Qi refinement stage. However, Zhang Tian was now a nascent soul heavenly lord and a divine grade nascent soul. When he used this divine power, it was more than 100 times more powerful than before. The old man in linen was startled. He felt as if 10,000 cannonballs had exploded in his ears. The sound waves were mixed with terrifying true essence and blasted into his ears, nose, mouth and organs. His body shook violently and blood spurted out from his nose and mouth like arrows. But the next second he knew that it was an understatement to call it a cannonball. Chapter 1726. Li Huiyan was a professional actress who had learned micro-expressions from a specially hired teacher. She could tell whether a person was real or not based on their micro-expressions, movements and behavior. Veterans don't even need to see you in person. They can recognize you just by looking at your back. When Li Huiyan first saw him, she also felt that he was similar to Zhang Tian, but he wasn't Zhang Tian. He was much older than Zhang Tian. However, she found that he was exactly the same as Zhang Tian, except that he was taller and had white hair. The distance of his footsteps, the way he walked and the way he held his hands behind his back were almost identical to Zhang Tian. She was sure that he was Zhang Tian, but she didn't say anything. She knew that Zhang Tian wasn't an ordinary person. Every word and action of his contained deep meaning. Since he had changed his appearance and concealed his identity, he must have his reasons. Naturally, she couldn't expose him. Do you think a golden core cultivator is qualified to challenge the dragon-slaying Zhang family? You should know that he is backed by a nascent soul heavenly lord. He's a talented person since he can reach the golden core level. However, he didn't know how terrifying the background of the Zhang clan was. What he did is like hitting a stone with an egg. Zhang Tian killed with a single sentence, shocking everyone present. But more people didn't think so. The dragon-slaying Zhang family was one of the top forces in Wuxia and had more than one nascent soul heavenly lord. Even if they weren't afraid of Zhang Kai, they still had to show some respect to the dragon-slaying Zhang family. However, Zhang Tian had killed Zhang Kai's personal servant just because of a disagreement. That was undoubtedly a slap in the face. How could he tolerate it? As expected, soon Zhang Kai's face became cold. The murderous intent in his eyes was as sharp as a sword. He stared at Zhang Tian and said, "Who are you? Don't you know the name of the dragon-slaying Zhang family?" The dragon-slaying Zhang family? Zhang Tian smiled and said disdainfully, "How dare you use this name to scare people? You should feel ashamed. What sins did Ao Bing of Dragon Pool's lineage commit for you to kill him? He's a demon. He should be killed." Zhang Kai said matter-of-factly, "How dare you speak up for the demon race? Don't you know that the Global Mythological Alliance has already listed the shifters as a must-kill? The Big Dipper Righteous Alliance has also declared war on the shifters. It was common knowledge that the demon clan was the greatest enemy of the human clan. If word of this gets out, you'll definitely die. You're courting death. If word of this gets out, the human cultivators will gang up on you and tear you to pieces." The other cultivators also looked at Zhang Tian with mocking expressions. "Demons should be killed." Zhang Tian said indifferently, "Let me ask you. When the cultivators from the ruins of immortality landed on Mars and began to march to Earth, Ao Bing's bloodline, Alexander's bloodline and the mermen of the Bermuda Delta all fought. Where were you at that time?" Zhang Kai was dumbfounded, speechless. That day, when the Divine General led the expedition to the ruins of immortality to Mars and was about to attack Earth, the Myth Alliance and Zhao Xueqing had issued a call for all cultivators above the Golden Core level to participate in the battle on Mars. In fact, the Zhang family was also paying attention at that time. However, they were all selfish and didn't want to get into trouble with the ruins of immortality, so they all hid. It could be said that the Zhang family didn't make any contributions in the Battle of the Ruins of Immortality. On the contrary, many demons were able to withstand the harsh environment because of their special bloodlines and physiques, so they shone in the battle on Mars. Ao Bing even killed more than 20 nascent soul cultivators in a row. It could be said that his contribution was great. But in the end, because of the manipulation of the Righteous Alliance, the Dragon Pool Demon King Aobing and all the demons on Earth became the target of public criticism. They were surrounded and killed by many forces. Their entire family died tragically. The Zhang clan had actually taken over the nest of a magpie and occupied the Dragon Lake. They had even shamelessly given themselves the title of the Dragon Slayer clan. Let me ask you again. Since the establishment of the Myth Alliance, have the demons on Earth hurt any human? Have they bullied the weak? Jiang Tian took another step forward and asked coldly. Well, everyone including Zhang Kai was surprised again. After the establishment of the Myth Alliance, the demons had regarded the declaration of the Myth Alliance as a standard and had indeed not killed any human. Even when the violent demon beasts invaded the cities, the demons had already stood on the side of humans and fought to the end. In those 2 years, more than tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of demons had died in battle to protect humans. But you, Jiang Tian took another step forward and mocked. Some so-called humans have long forgotten the oath spread when the Myth Alliance was established. The strong fight for the weak. All the creatures on Earth are a community with a shared future. You are heartless and vicious. You have attacked your comrades. You have disregarded human lives and bullied the weak. You have turned a vigorous and orderly society into hell and a primitive jungle. You are not as good as the demons. With every sentence Jiang Tian said, he took a step forward. After a few sentences, he had already walked to the center of the field and faced Zhang Kai, looking down at him as if he were an ant. How dare you speak for the demons? You are a traitor to humanity.